You're a liar. The words cut through the luxury restaurant like a knife. 32-year-old billionaire Ethan Callaway pointed across the table at a trembling waitress, his voice cold enough to freeze champagne. Every executive, every investor, every waiter stopped breathing. Lena Brooks, quiet, invisible Lena, who worked double shifts just to eat, felt 100 eyes drilling into her back. Prove it, Ethan demanded. Right now! What happened next would change everything. One humiliated waitress, $1 billion crisis, one impossible love story. Stay until the end, hit that like button, and comment your city below so I can see how far this story travels. The chandeliers in Aurelius, Manhattan's most exclusive restaurant, cast golden light across tables where million-dollar deals died or thrived over $30 steaks. Lena Brooks moved between those tables like a ghost, practiced at being invisible. Her black uniform blended into shadows. Her voice stayed soft. Her eyes stayed down. She'd learned that lesson 3 years ago. Rich people didn't want to see their waitress. They wanted refilled glasses, perfectly timed courses, and silence. Lena gave them exactly that. She was good at disappearing, good at surviving, good at swallowing words that might get her fired. Tonight felt different, though. Table 12 buzzed with tension, the kind that made experienced servers walk slower, listen harder. 6 men in suits that cost more than Lena's yearly rent. Phones face down but glowing, watches catching light like warnings. And at the head of the table, Ethan Callaway. Everyone knew Ethan Callaway. 32 years old. Billionaire. Built Callaway Technologies, from a college dorm room into an empire that swallowed competitors whole. His face appeared on magazine covers with headlines like "The Man Who Can't Be Beaten" and "America's Most Ruthless CEO." Lena had seen those magazines. She'd also seen him once before, months ago, picking up his daughter from the private school 3 blocks from her apartment. He'd looked different then, tired, human, almost gentle as he knelt to tie the little girl's shoe. Tonight, he looked carved from ice. "Mr. Callaway," Lena said quietly, approaching the table with her notepad ready. "Can I get you anything else?" He didn't look up. "We're fine." One of the executives, silver-haired, red-faced from too much wine, waved her closer. "Actually, sweetheart, bring another bottle of the Chateau Margaux, and tell your sommelier we'll need recommendations for the Tanaka deal closing next week." Lena nodded, started to turn away. "Wait." Ethan's voice stopped her mid-step. She turned back, careful to keep her expression neutral. "Yes, sir?" His eyes met hers for the first time, and Lena felt something shift in her chest. They were gray, not soft gray, but steel gray, storm gray, the kind of gray that warned you to get inside before lightning struck. "The Tanaka deal," Ethan said slowly. "Do you know what wine pairs with disappointment?" The table went quiet. The silver-haired executive laughed nervously. "Ethan, come on!" "I'm serious, Marcus." Ethan leaned back in his chair, still watching Lena. "Our translator completely botched the preliminary contract. Tanaka's team thinks we're trying to steal their patents. The whole thing's falling apart because nobody in my company can properly communicate in Japanese." Lena's fingers tightened around her notepad. She shouldn't say anything, shouldn't get involved, should just smile, nod, fetch the wine, disappear. But her mouth moved anyway. "Gomenasai," she said quietly. "That's unfortunate." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "What did you just say?" Lena's heart hammered. "Stupid, stupid, stupid." Nothing, sir. I'll get your wine." "No." He sat forward now, interest flickering across his face like warning lights. "You just spoke Japanese. What did you say?" "I'm sorry. Gomenasai means I'm sorry." "You speak Japanese?" Lena shifted her weight, suddenly aware that every man at the table was staring at her. "A little. I should really... How much is a little?" Lena swallowed. "Enough to get by." "And where," Ethan asked, his voice dropping to something dangerous, "does a waitress learn to get by in Japanese?" The words stung, sharp and deliberate. Lena felt heat crawling up her neck. "I studied languages in college before what? Dropped out?" "Ethan." Marcus touched his arm. "That's enough." But Ethan ignored him, his attention locked on Lena like a predator that had just scented blood. "What other languages do you speak?" Lena wanted to walk away. should walk away. But something in his tone, that casual dismissal, that assumption that she was too small, too poor, too nothing to matter, ignited something dangerous in her chest. 9, she said. The table erupted. 9 languages? One of the executives laughed outright. Come on, that's impossible, another said. Ethan just watched her, his expression unreadable. 9 languages? Really? Yes. Name them. Lena lifted her chin. English, Spanish, French, Italian, Portuguese, German, Mandarin Chinese, Japanese, and Arabic. Bullshit. The word came out flat, final. Ethan stood, his 6-foot frame making Lena step back instinctively. You expect me to believe you speak 9 languages? You work here. He gestured around the restaurant. No offense, but polyglots don't usually serve wine for a living. Maybe they do when they need to eat. The words escaped before Lena could stop them. The temperature at table 12 dropped 20 degrees. Marcus made a choking sound. Another executive coughed into his napkin. Ethan's jaw tightened, a muscle jumping beneath his skin. Prove it, he said. What? Prove you speak 9 languages. Ethan crossed his arms. Right now, in front of everyone. Lena's mouth went dry. Around them, other diners had started to notice. Conversations faded. Silverware stilled. Even the sommelier had stopped mid-pour, bottle frozen in his hand. She should apologize, should back down, should remember that she needed this job, needed the tips, needed to make rent next week. But she was so tired of being invisible, so tired of being dismissed, so tired of men like Ethan Calloway looking through her like she was glass. Fine, Lena said. Ethan's eyebrow lifted. Fine? Ask me something in any language you want. For a moment, she thought he might back down, might realize he was being cruel, might show a shred of the humanity she'd glimpsed that day outside the school. Instead, he pulled out his phone and handed it to Marcus. Pull up something in Mandarin, something complex. Marcus hesitated. Ethan, this is... Do it. Marcus sighed and tapped at the screen. After a moment, he held the phone toward Lena. Chinese characters glowed on the display. A news article about economic policy, dense and formal. Read it, Ethan commanded, out loud, and translate. Lena's hands trembled as she took the phone, but her voice stayed steady. She read the first paragraph in Mandarin, the tones flowing naturally, then translated it into English without missing a beat. The table was dead silent. Italian, Ethan said. Talk about wine. Since that's your job. Lena switched languages smoothly, describing the Chateau Margaux they'd ordered in flowing Italian, explaining its terroir, its vintage, its legendary status among collectors. German. Ethan's voice had changed, but Lena couldn't read his expression. Technical language. Describe how a computer processor works. She did. Perfectly. Arabic. She recited a poem her college professor had made her memorize, the words beautiful and ancient. Portuguese. French. Japanese. No, wait. Spanish. Tell me. Ethan paused, something flickering in his eyes. Tell me what you think of me. The restaurant held its breath. Lena looked at him, really looked at him, this billionaire who'd decided to humiliate her for sport, who'd challenged her in front of 100 witnesses, who'd assumed she was lying because she didn't fit his image of what intelligence looked like. When she spoke Spanish, her voice was soft but clear, and every word landed like a stone in still water. Creo que eres un hombre que construyó muros tan altos que olvidó cómo derrumbarlos. Creo que lastimas a la gente porque tienes miedo de que te lastimen primero. Y creo que algún día, cuando estés solo en esa torre que construiste, te darás cuenta de que el poder no te mantiene caliente por la noche. I think you're a man who built walls so high you forgot how to tear them down. I think you hurt people because you're afraid of being hurt first. And I think someday, when you're alone in that tower you built, you'll realize power doesn't keep you warm at night. Silence crashed over the restaurant like a wave. Ethan stared at her. Someone at the next table gasped. Marcus had gone pale. Marcus. Then Ethan laughed, a short, sharp sound without humor. Very impressive. You've memorized some phrases, learned to parrot sounds, but speaking a language and understanding it are different things. Lena felt something crack inside her chest. You don't believe me. It wasn't a question. I think, Ethan said carefully, you're very good at convincing people you're more than you are. The words hit like a slap. Lena set down his phone with exaggerated care. Her hands weren't shaking anymore. She'd moved past fear into something colder, sharper. You know what I think, Mr. Calloway? She met his eyes. I think you're so used to buying what you want that you can't recognize real value when it's standing right in front of you. I think you're terrified of anything you can't control, can't purchase, can't own. And I think the saddest part is, you'll spend your whole life surrounded by people who tell you you're brilliant, when really you're just rich. She pulled off her apron, folded it neatly, and set it on the table. I quit. Wait. Marcus stood. You don't have to. Yes, she does. Ethan's voice was ice. If she can't handle honest questions, she has no business working here anyway. Lena laughed, a sound that startled even herself. Honest? You publicly humiliated me because I made you curious, because I didn't fit into your neat little box of what a waitress should be. That's not honesty, Mr. Calloway. That's cruelty, dressed up as curiosity. She turned to leave, but Ethan's next words stopped her cold. You're right, I am cruel, but at least I'm honest about what I am. Can you say the same? Lena looked back at him over her shoulder. I know exactly what I am. I'm someone who won't waste another second proving herself to a man who's already decided she's worthless. She walked out of Aurelius with her head high and tears burning behind her eyes. Dig. Outside, the November air bit through her thin shirt. Lena made it half a block before she had to stop, pressing her back against a building, finally letting herself shake. She'd just quit her job. The job that paid her rent. The job that fed her. The job she'd held on to through 3 years of condescending customers and aching feet and smiling until her face hurt. All because Ethan Calloway had looked at her like she was nothing. Lena pulled out her phone with trembling fingers. 3 texts from her roommate asking when she'd be home. 1 from her mother asking for money again, and $17 in her checking account. Brilliant, she whispered to the empty street. Really brilliant, Lena. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered. Hello? Ms. Brooks? She didn't recognize the voice, male, professional, careful. Who's asking? My name is David Chen. I'm Mr. Calloway's personal attorney. I'm calling because there's been an incident. We need your linguistic expertise immediately. Lena almost hung up. Tell Mr. Calloway he can... It's not for him. It's for his daughter. That stopped her. What happened to his daughter? There was a miscommunication at her school. The new Mandarin teacher accused her of cheating because Amelia's accent is apparently too advanced for her age. The school's translator is out sick, and the situation is escalating. Amelia's very upset. Lena closed her eyes. Mr. Calloway has unlimited resources. He doesn't need me. Actually, David said quietly, he specifically requested you. Please, Ms. Brooks. Amelia's 6 years old and she's crying in the principal's office because she thinks she's in trouble. Whatever happened at dinner tonight, she didn't deserve to be caught in the middle of it. Damn it. Where? Lena asked. Brighton Academy, East 73rd. I'll have a car there in 3 minutes. I don't... Please. Lena looked up at the sky, at the sliver of stars visible between Manhattan's towers. Fine. 3 minutes. But tell Mr. Calloway he owes me. Big. He knows, David said, and something in his voice made Lena think he was smiling. Believe me, Miss Brooks, he knows. The car was black, sleek, and absolutely wasted on Lena's shitty day. She climbed in, still wearing her work clothes, smelling like kitchen grease and expensive wine she'd never afford to drink. The driver didn't speak, didn't look at her, just drove through Manhattan like he was on autopilot, depositing her in front of Brighton Academy 15 minutes later. The school made Aurelius look cheap. Marble columns, gold-trimmed windows, a fountain in the courtyard that probably cost more than Lena would earn in her lifetime. David Chen met her at the entrance, younger than she'd expected, maybe 35, with wire-rimmed glasses and an expression of profound relief. Thank you for coming, he said, shaking her hand. This way. He led her through hallways lined with expensive art, past classrooms with smart boards and ergonomic furniture, toward voices raised in frustration. Completely unacceptable. If you cannot control your student, my daughter is not the problem here. Ethan. Lena's stomach clenched, but she kept walking. David pushed open the principal's office door, and 6 pairs of eyes swiveled toward her. Ethan stood near the window, his back rigid, his hands clenched. The principal, a thin woman in pearls, sat behind an enormous desk. A Chinese woman in her 50s stood beside her, arms crossed. And in a chair that was too big for her, drowning in a school uniform, sat a little girl with Ethan's eyes and tears on her cheeks. "Who is this?" the principal demanded. "Our translator," Ethan said, his voice flat. He didn't look at Lena. "Ms. Brooks, this is Mrs. Wang, Amelia's new Mandarin instructor. She's accused my daughter of cheating." The Chinese teacher's expression hardened. The child's accent is too perfect, too native. She must have had help on the assignment. "She didn't," Ethan said through gritted teeth. "Her mother was Chinese. She spoke to Amelia in Mandarin from birth." "I explained this," Mrs. Wang snapped in Mandarin. "No 6-year-old has that level of fluency without current daily practice from a native speaker." Lena stepped forward, switching to Mandarin. "May I speak with Amelia in private?" Mrs. Wang blinked, surprised. Her tone shifted, became less defensive. "You speak Mandarin?" "I do, and I'd like to hear Amelia's side before we make any accusations." The principal started to protest, but Ethan cut her off. "Let her talk to Amelia." Lena knelt beside the little girl's chair, bringing herself to eye level. Up close, Amelia was beautiful. Dark curls, gray eyes, wearing her fear like a too heavy coat. "Hi, Amelia," Lena said softly in Mandarin. "My name is Lena. I'm here to help. Can you tell me what happened?" Amelia's lower lip trembled. When she spoke Mandarin, it was flawless. The accent Beijing pure, the tones perfect. "Mrs. Wang gave us a story to translate. I translated it like Mama taught me. But Mrs. Wang said I cheated because I used a word she didn't teach us yet. I didn't cheat. I just remembered Mama saying it." Lena's chest tightened. "What word?" "Yuan Fen? Yuan Fen? It means destiny? But special destiny, the kind that brings people together." Lena glanced at Mrs. Wang, then back to Amelia. "That's a very advanced word. How did you learn it?" "Mama used to say it when she tucked me in." Amelia's voice broke. "She said Yuan Fen brought her and Daddy together, that even though they were from different worlds, they were supposed to find each other. She said I was their Yuan Fen too." Tears slipped down the little girl's cheeks, and Lena had to swallow hard against her own. "Your mama was right," Lena whispered. "And you didn't cheat. You remembered something beautiful she taught you. That's not cheating. That's love." She stood, switching back to Mandarin, but loud enough for everyone to hear. "Mrs. Wang, Amelia didn't cheat. She used vocabulary her mother taught her. Vocabulary that's emotionally significant, which is why she retained it. Her accent is native because her mother was a native speaker who raised her bilingually. This isn't academic dishonesty. This is bilingual development in a heritage speaker." Mrs. Wang's expression shifted from anger to embarrassment. I didn't realize her mother had passed. I thought." "You thought a 6-year-old was trying to deceive you," Lena said quietly. "You didn't ask questions. You made assumptions. And you made a little girl cry over something that should have been celebrated." The room went silent. The principal cleared her throat. "Mrs. Wang, I think perhaps an apology is in order." Mrs. Wang looked at Amelia, her face softening. In Mandarin, she said, "I'm sorry, Amelia. Your mama taught you well. You should be proud." Amelia nodded, wiping her eyes. Ethan crossed the room in 3 strides, scooping his daughter into his arms. She buried her face in his neck, and for a moment he just held her, his eyes closed. When he opened them, they found Lena. "Thank you," he said roughly. Lena nodded. "She's a good kid. Don't let anyone tell her otherwise." She turned to leave, but Ethan's voice stopped her. "Wait, can we talk? Outside? I don't think... Please." There was something in that single word that made Lena pause. Not command, not expectation, just request, raw and human. 5 minutes, she said. Bitsats. They stood in the courtyard while David took Amelia to get ice cream from the cafeteria. The fountain burbled between them, filling the silence. "You were right," Ethan said finally. "At the restaurant, Everything you said. I was cruel. Lena crossed her arms. I know. I'm not good at... He stopped, started again. People assume things about me. They think because I'm successful, I'm happy. Because I'm rich, I'm satisfied. They want something from me. Money, connections, access. They lie. They perform. They pretend to be whatever they think I want. So you test them? Lena asked. Humiliate them publicly to see if they're real? Ethan's jaw tightened. I don't trust easily. That's not an excuse. I know. It's an explanation. He met her eyes. When you said you spoke 9 languages, I didn't believe you because it seemed impossible. Too convenient. Like you'd overheard our conversation and invented a skill set to make yourself valuable. Because waitresses can't possibly be educated? Because in my experience, people who are genuinely talented don't hide at waiting tables. Lena laughed bitterly. You want to know why I'm a waitress, Mr. Calloway? I graduated magna cum laude in linguistics from Columbia. I had a job offer at the UN, and then my father got sick. Cancer. I spent 2 years taking care of him, watching him die slowly while medical bills ate everything we had. By the time he passed, my job offer was gone. My savings were gone. My apartment was gone. I took what I could get, and what I could get was Aurelius. So forgive me if I don't advertise my degrees while serving you wine. But Ethan looked like she'd punched him. I didn't know. You didn't ask. Lena turned away. You saw what you wanted to see, just like everyone else. You're right, and I'm sorry. The apology sat between them, small and insufficient. Is that why you called me here? Lena asked. To apologize? Partially. Ethan stepped closer, his voice dropping. But mostly because I need your help. With Amelia? With everything. He pulled out his phone, pulled up an email, handed it to her. This is from Tanaka Industries. They're threatening to pull out of our deal entirely unless we can clarify some contract language. My entire legal team has been working on it for 6 hours and getting nowhere. The deadline is tomorrow morning Tokyo time. Lena skimmed the email. Her stomach dropped. This isn't a translation problem. What do you mean? I mean, whoever drafted this contract in Japanese deliberately used ambiguous phrasing. Look, right here. This clause about intellectual property transfer. In English, it seems like you're licensing your technology. But in Japanese, the verb conjugation implies permanent transfer of ownership. They're trying to steal your patents. Ethan went very still. Are you certain? Completely. And here, this section about dispute resolution. The English says arbitration. The Japanese says Tanaka has final decision-making authority. You wouldn't just lose the deal, Mr. Calloway. You'd lose your company. Jesus. Ethan ran a hand through his hair. How did we miss this? Because you hired translators, not linguists. Translation is about words. Linguistics is about meaning, context, cultural implication. The person who wrote this knew exactly what they were doing. Can you fix it? Lena looked at him. At this man who'd humiliated her hours ago, who'd apologized but couldn't undo the damage, who was now asking her to save his billion-dollar empire. Why should I? She asked quietly. Because you're brilliant, Ethan said. Because you deserve better than serving wine to people who don't see you. Because I'm offering you a job. A job? Head of Linguistics Services at Callaway Technologies. You'd oversee all international communications, contracts, negotiations, full benefits. Salary starting at $200,000. Lena's breath caught. 200 plus performance bonuses, plus stock options, plus an office with a view and a team of researchers and every resource you need. Ethan's eyes were intense, focused. I'm not asking because I feel guilty, Ms. Brooks. I'm asking because I need the best and you're the best. What happened tonight, both times, proved that. You tested me, Lena said. Again, no. Amelia's situation was real, but yes, I saw an opportunity to see how you handled pressure, conflict, emotional stakes. And you were perfect. I don't like being manipulated. I know, but I'm not asking you to like me. I'm asking if you want to use your actual skills instead of hiding them, if you want financial security, if you want to matter. The words landed like arrows, each one finding its mark. Lena thought about her apartment, the roaches, the broken heat, the landlord who leered when she paid rent late. She thought about her mother's texts, always asking for money Lena didn't have. She thought about Colombia, about the UN, about every dream she'd buried under survival. "I have conditions," she said. Ethan's expression shifted. Surprise, respect. "Name them." 1. I report directly to you. No middle managers who will dismiss me because I don't look like their idea of an expert. Done. 2. I want full autonomy over my department. You hired me for my expertise, which means trusting my judgment. Agreed. 3. Lena stepped closer, holding his gaze. You never, ever test me like that again. If you have a question, ask it. If you doubt me, say so. But don't humiliate me to prove a point. Are we clear? Ethan held out his hand. Crystal. Lena stared at his hand for a long moment. This was insane. She'd met this man 4 hours ago, and he'd made her cry. Now he was offering her a job that could change her life. But what choice did she have? Go back to Aurelius? Beg for her apron back? Serve wine until her feet gave out and her dreams turned to dust? She shook his hand. His grip was firm, warm. When do I start? She asked. Right now. Ethan smiled, a real smile that transformed his face entirely. We have a contract to rewrite, and Tokyo wakes up in 7 hours. David's bringing Amelia back. We'll drop her with my sister, then head to the office. Tonight? Unless you have somewhere better to be? Lena thought of her empty apartment, her $17 bank account, her life that fit in 3 suitcases. Lead the way, Mr. Calloway. Ethan, he corrected. If we're working together, call me Ethan. Us. Calloway Technologies occupied 40 floors of a glass tower that scraped the sky. Lena had passed it 100 times, never imagining she'd be inside. The lobby was marble and chrome, security tight, but Ethan bypassed everything with a nod, leading her to a private elevator that required his fingerprint. Top floor, he said. Conference room has everything we need. The elevator rose so fast Lena's ears popped. When the doors opened, she stepped into luxury, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan, modern art on the walls, furniture that whispered money. This way. The conference room was bigger than her apartment. One wall was entirely glass. A table that could seat 30 dominated the center. Computers, monitors, tablets, technology everywhere. I'll have David send up the contract files, Ethan said, shrugging off his jacket. Coffee? Food? We're going to be here a while. Coffee. Black. He smiled. Efficient. I like it. While he ordered from an assistant Lena hadn't even seen, she moved to the window. Manhattan glittered below, alive and indifferent. Somewhere down there was Aurelius, was her apartment, was the life she'd been living. Up here felt like another planet. Lena. She turned. Ethan had loosened his tie, rolled up his sleeves. He looked younger, more human. Before we start, I need to know something. What? Can you really do this? Rewrite a contract this complex in 7 hours? Lena crossed her arms. Are you testing me again? No, I'm asking honestly. Because if you can't, I need to know now so I can prepare for the fallout. She studied him, this billionaire who'd been cruel and apologetic, who'd offered her salvation and still doubted her. I can do it, Lena said quietly. The question is, can you trust me to? Ethan held her gaze for a long moment. Then he nodded. Show me. The coffee arrived in porcelain cups that probably cost more than Lena's monthly rent. She didn't touch hers. Instead, she pulled up the Tanaka contract on the massive monitor, her fingers flying across the keyboard, while Ethan watched from across the table. Here, she said, highlighting a section. This is the first major problem. The Japanese version uses rangdu, hoto, which means permanent transfer. But your English version says license. Those aren't even close to the same thing. Ethan leaned forward, studying the screen. So they're claiming we agreed to hand over complete ownership? Not just claiming. If this goes to court in Japan, they'd win. The Japanese version would be considered the authoritative text because Tanaka's the Japanese company. You'd lose everything. Christ. Ethan scrubbed his face with both hands. My legal team reviewed this for 3 weeks. Your legal team doesn't understand linguistic nuance. They probably used translation software and assumed it was accurate. Lena scrolled down, her eyes scanning rapidly. There's more. See this section about payment terms? The English says net 60. The Japanese implies payment upon satisfactory completion, which Tanaka defines, not you. They could delay payment indefinitely. How long to fix it? Lena checked her watch. If I work straight through, 5 hours to rewrite the Japanese version properly. Another hour to have your lawyers review my changes. That gives us 1 hour buffer before Tokyo's business day starts. Can you do it? She looked at him, really looked at him. His tie was crooked now, his hair mussed from running his hands through it. He looked exhausted, worried, and for the first time since she'd met him, genuinely uncertain. Yes, Lena said, but I need you to leave me alone while I work. No checking in every 20 minutes. No questions. You hired me to do this, so let me do it. Something flickered across Ethan's face. Surprise, maybe respect. Fair enough. I'll be in my office if you need anything. David will be outside. Ethan? He paused at the door. Why did you really hire me? Lena asked quietly. And don't say it's because I'm the best. You have access to the best translators in the world. You could have anyone. Ethan was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was different, softer, more real. Because when you walked away from me tonight, you were the first person in 5 years who didn't want something from me. Everyone wants access, wants favors, wants to get close to money and power. But you? You told me I was cruel and you left. No hesitation, no negotiation. He met her eyes. That kind of integrity is rare, and I need someone I can trust. Before Lena could respond, he was gone. She sat in the silence of the enormous conference room, Manhattan glittering below her like scattered diamonds, and tried to process the last 6 hours of her life. This morning, she'd woken up in her shitty apartment, worried about tips and rent. Now she was sitting in a billionaire's tower, rewriting a contract worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Her phone buzzed. Her roommate, "Girl, where are you?" "It's 1 a.m. Lena typed back, "Long story, don't wait up." She set the phone aside, cracked her knuckles, and got to work. The contract was a nightmare, deliberately so. Whoever had drafted it knew exactly what they were doing, burying landmines in conjugation choices, in particles that shifted meaning, in cultural implications that wouldn't translate directly. It was beautiful in its cruelty, elegant in its deception. Lena started dismantling it piece by piece. She rewrote clauses, adjusted verb forms, clarified ambiguities. Her Columbia training kicked in. Not just translation, but cross-cultural communication theory, pragmatics, semantic precision. She built in safeguards, closed loopholes, turned Tanaka's traps into solid protections for Callaway Technologies. Around 3 in the morning, David appeared with fresh coffee and a sandwich Lena didn't remember requesting. "Mr. Callaway thought you might be hungry," he said, setting down the plate. Lena glanced at it. Turkey, avocado, expensive bread. Her stomach growled traitorously. "Thank you. How's it going?" "Almost done. Another hour, maybe 90 minutes. David nodded, started to leave, then paused. "Ms. Brooks? For what it's worth, I've worked for Ethan for 7 years. I've never seen him apologize to anyone. What he did tonight, admitting he was wrong, that's significant. He humiliated me in front of 100 people. I know. And that was inexcusable." David's expression was serious. But Ethan's been different since his wife died. Harder, more suspicious. He builds walls because letting people close means risking the kind of pain that nearly destroyed him the first time. I'm not excusing his behavior. I'm just saying, maybe give him a chance to prove he meant that apology. Lena didn't respond. David took the hint and left. She ate the sandwich mechanically, not tasting it, her eyes never leaving the screen. By 4:30, she'd finished the rewrite. By 5, she'd triple-checked every character, every particle, every nuance. It was perfect. She saved the file, sent it to Ethan's email, and slumped back in her chair. Her eyes burned. Her back ached. Her brain felt like someone had taken a blender to it, but she'd done it. The door opened. Ethan stood there, phone in hand, looking at her email. "You finished? Read it yourself." He crossed to the monitor, scrolling through her changes. Lena watched his face. Watched his eyes narrow, his jaw tighten, his expression shift from tired to alert to something close to awe. "This is incredible," he said finally. "You didn't just fix the problems, you made it stronger than our original English version." That was the point. Lena. Ethan turned to face her fully. You just saved my company. Do you understand that? Without you, I'd have signed away everything I've built. You're welcome. He laughed, a real laugh that transformed his entire face. You're not going to make this easy, are you? Make what easy? Working together, being grateful, admitting you were right about me. Lena stood, gathering her things. It's 5 in the morning. I've been awake for 23 hours. I rewrote a contract in a language that isn't my native tongue while running on coffee and spite. So no, Ethan, I'm not going to make anything easy. That's not what you hired me for. What did I hire you for? She met his eyes. To tell you the truth, even when you don't want to hear it. Ethan stepped closer, not threatening, just present. And what's the truth right now? The truth is I'm exhausted. The truth is I'm terrified I just made the biggest mistake of my life accepting this job. The truth is I don't trust you yet, and I don't know if I ever will. Lena's voice dropped. But I'm really good at what I do, and I'm tired of pretending I'm not. So I'm going to take your money, do excellent work, and try not to let you humiliate me again. Deal? Deal. Ethan held out his hand. David will drive you home. Take tomorrow, today, off. Come in Wednesday morning. We'll get you set up properly. Lena shook his hand, ignoring the warmth that spread through her fingers at the contact. Wednesday. 9 a.m.? Make it 10. You've earned the sleep. As she turned to leave, Ethan's voice stopped her one more time. Lena, thank you, genuinely. You could have let me crash and burn after tonight. Instead, you saved me. I won't forget that. Lena didn't turn around. Don't thank me yet. We still have to see if Tanaka accepts the changes. But as the elevator carried her back down to earth, to the waiting car, to her real life that suddenly felt very far away, Lena allowed herself the smallest smile. She'd done it. She'd actually done it. Wednesday morning arrived with November rain and Lena's alarm screaming at 9. She dragged herself out of bed, stared at her closet, and realized she owned exactly 0 outfits appropriate for a corporate office. Her roommate, Maya, appeared in the doorway with coffee and judgment. You're really doing this? Working for the guy who made you cry? He's paying me $200,000. Fair point. Maya handed her the coffee. Wear the gray dress. It's the only thing you own that doesn't scream waitress on her day off. The gray dress was 3 years old, bought for her father's funeral, and still the nicest thing in Lena's wardrobe. She paired it with her only blazer, her least scuffed shoes, and minimal makeup because she'd never learned to do it well anyway. Maya wolf whistled. Look at you, corporate America. Shut up. Seriously, though, Maya's expression sobered. Be careful. Rich guys like that, they don't play by normal rules, and you've got a habit of trusting people who don't deserve it. Lena thought about her father, about the bills, about every time she'd believed things would work out if she just tried hard enough. I know. Good. Now go make that money. And if he tries anything, quit and sue his ass. The car service Ethan had arranged picked Lena up at 9:30. Same black sedan, same silent driver. This time, though, Lena felt different. Not invisible, not small. Scared, yes, but also awake. Callaway Technologies looked different in daylight. Less intimidating, more like what it was. Just a building. Just glass and steel and people trying to make a living, same as anywhere else. David met her in the lobby with a visitor badge and a smile. Welcome to your first official day. How are you feeling? Terrified. Honest. Good. He led her to the elevator. Ethan's in back-to-back meetings until noon, but he wanted me to get you settled. Your office is ready. My office? 37th floor, north-facing. You said you wanted a view. The elevator rose, and Lena's stomach dropped in inverse proportion. When the doors opened, David guided her through an open workspace, cubicles and glass-walled offices, people typing and talking and looking busy and important. Here, David opened a door. Lena stepped into an office that was bigger than her bedroom. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. A desk, real wood, not laminate. A computer with 2 large monitors. Bookshelves waiting to be filled. Even a small couch. This is mine? Her voice came out smaller than intended. All yours. I'll have IT come set up your credentials. HR needs you to sign some paperwork. and Ethan wants to see you at noon to discuss department structure. David handed her a folder. Your offer letter, benefits information, stock options documentation. Look it over. Let me know if you have questions. After he left, Lena sank into her desk chair, leather, ergonomic, expensive, and just breathed. This was real. This was happening. She opened the offer letter with shaking hands. $200,000 base salary. Full health, dental, vision, 4 weeks vacation. Stock options that, if the company continued growing, could be worth millions. At the bottom, a handwritten note. Welcome to the team. Prove me right. Elena traced the signature with one finger, trying to reconcile this opportunity with the man who'd humiliated her 72 hours ago. Her new computer chimed. Email from Ethan. Tanaka accepted all changes. Deal closes Friday. You made this happen. Before she could respond, her office door opened. A woman in her 50s, elegantly dressed, walked in carrying a tablet. Ms. Brooks, I'm Margaret Chen, head of HR. Welcome aboard. She extended her hand. I have your paperwork here. Should take about 30 minutes to get through everything. The next hour passed in a blur of forms and signatures and information Lena struggled to process. Direct deposit, emergency contacts, beneficiary designations, the casual bureaucracy of a life she'd never imagined having. One more thing, Margaret said. Mr. Calloway requested we provide you with a corporate wardrobe allowance. $5,000 to start, refreshed quarterly. Given the nature of your role, international meetings, high-level negotiations, you'll need appropriate attire. Our preferred vendors are listed here. She handed Lena another folder. Lena stared at it. $5,000 for clothes? It's standard for executive positions. Margaret's expression softened. Ms. Brooks, you're not a waitress anymore. You represent this company now. Mr. Calloway wants to ensure you have everything you need to succeed. After Margaret left, Lena sat in silence, looking at the folder, the offer letter, the view of Manhattan stretching endlessly before her. She'd escaped. Actually, truly escaped. The relief hit so hard she had to put her head down on the desk and just breathe through it. At noon, David appeared again. Ethan's ready for you. Conference room B, 39th floor. Lena followed him up 2 floors to a smaller conference room, still luxurious but more intimate. Ethan stood by the window, phone to his ear, speaking rapid Japanese. He saw her, held up one finger, finished his conversation. Sorry, Tokyo had questions about Clause 17. And? I told them your interpretation was final. He smiled. They backed down immediately. Apparently word's already spreading that Calloway Tech has a linguistic genius on staff. I've been here 3 hours. You saved a $400 million deal. News travels fast. Ethan gestured to the table. Sit. Let's talk about your department. Lena sat. Ethan remained standing, pacing as he talked. Clearly someone who thought better in motion. Right now we handle translation through freelancers and agencies. It's inefficient, inconsistent, and as we saw with Tanaka, dangerous. I want you to build an in-house team, hire specialists in our key markets, Chinese, Japanese, German, Spanish, Arabic. Develop protocols for contract review, interpretation services, cultural consulting. That's a massive undertaking. I know. That's why I'm giving you carte blanche. Hire who you need, build what you need. I trust your judgment. He finally sat down across from her. But I need you operational within 6 months. We're expanding into Southeast Asia next year. India the year after. Without proper linguistic infrastructure, we'll fail. With it, we'll dominate. Lena's mind raced. I'll need dedicated space, equipment, access to subject matter experts for technical terminology. And I'll need authority to reject contracts if the language isn't sound, even if it delays deals. Done, done, and done. Ethan leaned forward. Lena, I'm not hiring you to rubber stamp what I want to hear. I'm hiring you to protect this company from linguistic mistakes that could destroy us. If you say a contract is bad, it's bad. Your word is final. You're giving me an enormous amount of power. You earned it. Monday night, in 7 hours, you did what my entire legal team couldn't do in 3 weeks. That's not luck. That's mastery. His gray eyes held hers. I don't make mistakes when it comes to talent, and you're the most talented person I've met in a very long time. Heat crept up Lena's neck. I'm just doing my job. No, you're revolutionizing how this company operates. There's a difference. Before Lena could respond, the door burst open. A man in an expensive suit, tall, dark-haired, maybe 40, strode in without knocking. Ethan, we need to talk about the Jakarta proposal. Legal's saying... He stopped, seeing Lena. Who's this? Ethan's expression cooled noticeably. Lena Brooks? Meet Richard Morrison, our COO. Richard, Lena's our new head of linguistic services. Richard's eyes raked over Lena in a way that made her skin crawl. Linguistic services? Since when do we have a linguistic services department? Since Monday. Lena saved the Tanaka deal. The waitress? Richard laughed, sharp, dismissive. Ethan, are you serious? You hired a waitress to run a corporate department? Lena stood slowly, meeting Richard's eyes. Former waitress, current Columbia graduate with a master's in applied linguistics, and the person who prevented your company from accidentally signing over its patents to a foreign competitor. Any other questions? Richard's smile didn't reach his eyes. Defensive. I like it. But sweetheart, corporate America isn't a restaurant. It takes more than memorizing a few phrases to survive here. Richard. Ethan's voice dropped to a register Lena had never heard. Cold, dangerous. You will address Ms. Brooks with respect, or you can clean out your desk. Are we clear? The room temperature plummeted. Richard held up his hands. Relax. I'm just saying maybe we should have interviewed other candidates. I don't recall asking for your opinion on my hiring decisions. Ethan, come on. Out. Ethan pointed to the door. Now. We'll discuss Jakarta later. Richard shot Lena a look that promised future problems, then left, slamming the door behind him. Silence settled like broken glass. I'm sorry, Ethan said finally. Richard's brilliant at operations, but he's an ass with new people, especially people he perceives as threats. Why would I be a threat to him? Because you have direct access to me. Because I gave you authority that supersedes his in certain areas. Because you're talented and he's insecure. Ethan rubbed his temples. Office politics. Welcome to corporate life. Lena sat back down, her earlier confidence shaken. Maybe he's right. Maybe I'm in over my head. He's not right. He's scared. Ethan leaned across the table. Lena, look at me. Richard's been here 8 years. He's made himself indispensable through routine and incremental improvements. But you? You walked in and solved a problem that could have bankrupted us. In one night. That terrifies people like Richard because it exposes their limitations. I don't want to make enemies. Too late. You already have one. Ethan's expression was grim. But you also have me. Richard tries anything, you come directly to me. Understood? I can fight my own battles. I know you can, but you shouldn't have to, not here. This is supposed to be your chance to use your skills without constantly defending your right to exist in the room. The words hit harder than Lena expected. How many times had she defended herself? Proved herself? Fought for respect she should have been given automatically? Thank you, she said quietly. Ethan nodded. Now, let's talk about your first hire. I'm thinking you need a deputy, someone with corporate experience who can help navigate the politics while you focus on the linguistics. I have a few candidates in mind. Actually, Lena interrupted, I already know who I want. Already? You've been here 3 hours. Her name's Dr. Sarah Kim. She was my thesis advisor at Columbia. Native Korean speaker, fluent in 6 languages, 20 years experience in international business communications. She's currently teaching, but she's mentioned wanting to return to corporate work. Ethan pulled out his phone. What's her contact information? Lena rattled it off from memory. Within 90 seconds, Ethan had David setting up a lunch meeting with Dr. Kim for tomorrow. Anything else? He asked. Actually, yes. Lena pulled out her own phone, opened her notes. I've been thinking about protocols. Every contract should go through a 3-tier review: initial translation, cultural context analysis, legal terminology verification. We should establish relationships with native speakers in each target market who can consult on regional variations. And we need a database of terminology standards so we're consistent across all documents. Ethan was smiling. What? Lena asked. You've been here 3 hours and you already have a complete operational framework. I had a lot of time to think in the car this morning. I made the right choice hiring you. We'll see. They spent the next 2 hours going through logistics: budget, generous; timeline, aggressive; expectations, high but reasonable. By the time Lena returned to her office, her head was spinning with possibilities and terror in equal measure. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Lena. A familiar voice, warm, surprised. It's Sarah Kim. I just got the strangest call from a David Chen at Callaway Technologies. Lena grinned. That would be my doing. Your doing? Lena, what's going on? Last I heard, you were working in a restaurant. Long story. Are you free for lunch tomorrow? He did. The rest of Wednesday passed in a whirlwind. IT set up her computer access. Facilities showed her the break rooms, the gym, the executive dining area. David walked her through the building's security protocols and introduced her to what felt like 100 people whose names Lena would never remember. By 6 p.m., she was exhausted. She was packing up to leave when Ethan appeared in her doorway, jacket off, tie loosened, looking as tired as she felt. Heading out? He asked. Yeah, my brain stopped working an hour ago. I know the feeling. He hesitated, then, there's something you should know. Richard sent a memo to the executive team questioning your qualifications. I shut it down, but he's going to be a problem. Lena's stomach sank. What did the memo say? That you're inexperienced, unproven, and I hired you on impulse without proper vetting. Ethan's jaw tightened. I responded with the Tanaka contract breakdown and your proposed department structure. That shut most people up. But Richard's got allies. Should I be worried? Yes, but not scared. There's a difference. Ethan stepped into her office. Lena, corporate environments can be vicious. People will underestimate you because you're young, because you're a woman, because you came from outside the industry. They'll wait for you to fail and celebrate when you stumble. That's reality. Inspiring pep talk. He smiled. I'm not done. They'll underestimate you, which means you'll have the advantage. They'll expect you to be intimidated, to defer to people with more experience, to play it safe. Don't. Be exactly who you were Monday night. Brilliant, fearless, unwilling to back down. That's why I hired you. I was terrified Monday night. I know, but you did it anyway. That's courage. Lena looked at him. This complicated, infuriating man who'd humiliated her and saved her in the span of a few hours. Why are you really helping me? And don't say it's because I saved your deal. There's something else. Ethan was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was different, softer, more honest. My wife, Elena. She was a translator for a medical NGO when we met. Brilliant, fluent in 5 languages, passionate about communication breaking down barriers between cultures. His eyes grew distant. Everyone told me she was too idealistic, too naive for the business world, that I should marry someone who understood corporate politics, who could play the game. I ignored them. Best decision I ever made. What happened to her? Car accident? Drunk driver? She was coming home from a conference. Ethan's voice cracked almost imperceptibly. Amelia was 2. I became a single father overnight, running a company and raising a daughter and trying not to fall apart. I built walls because letting people close meant risking that kind of pain again. I'm sorry. The point is, Ethan continued, Elena believed in using skills to help people, not just make money. She believed language was power, real power, and that the people who controlled communication controlled everything. You remind me of her. Not in appearance, but in conviction, in refusing to diminish yourself. He met Lena's eyes. So yes, I'm helping you because you saved my company, but I'm also helping you because Elena would have wanted me to. Because talent like yours shouldn't be wasted serving wine to people who don't deserve your attention. Lena didn't know what to say. The Ethan standing in her office bore no resemblance to the man who challenged her in Aurelius. This one was raw, grieving, trying. Thank you for telling me that, she said finally. Ethan nodded, cleared his throat, rebuilt his walls in real time. David will have a car downstairs whenever you're ready. See you tomorrow. After he left, Lena sat in her expensive chair in her expensive office and thought about grief, about second chances, about the strange ways life connected people across impossible distances. Then she went home to her crappy apartment and tried to explain to Maya why everything had changed. Thursday's lunch with Dr. Kim happened at a restaurant Lena could never have afforded on her own. Sarah arrived looking elegant and academic, glasses, blazer, hair in a neat bun, and utterly confused. "Start talking," Sarah said the moment they sat down, "because this better be good." Lena told her everything. Aurelius, the confrontation, Amelia's school, the Tanaka contract, the job offer. Sarah listened without interrupting, her expression cycling through disbelief, concern, and something that might have been pride. "So you're running an entire department," Sarah said when Lena finished, "at one of the biggest tech companies in America, with zero corporate experience." When you say it like that, it sounds insane. It is insane. It's also brilliant. Sarah leaned forward. "Lena, do you understand what you've accomplished? You went from waitressing to corporate executive in 72 hours. That's not luck. That's you being extraordinary and finally getting recognized for it. I'm terrified I'll fail." "Good. Fear keeps you sharp." Sarah smiled. "So, you want me as your deputy? Or I need you. You know the corporate world. You know how to navigate politics, manage teams, deal with egos. I can handle the linguistics. But the rest?" Lena shook her head. "I'm drowning. What's the offer?" "I don't know yet, but I'll make sure it's worth your while. Salary, benefits, authority to build the department however we think is best. Ethan's giving us carte blanche." Sarah studied her. "You trust him? This Ethan?" "I don't know. He's complicated. He can be cruel, but also unexpectedly kind. He apologized, which apparently he never does. He's giving me more power than I probably deserve. And he talks about his late wife like she's still the most important person in his life. So he's damaged, powerful, and unpredictable. Lena, be careful. Everyone keeps saying that because we care about you." Sarah reached across the table, squeezed Lena's hand. "But I also know you. Once you commit to something, you're all in. So if you're doing this, really doing this, then I'm with you. Someone needs to watch your back." Lena felt tears prick her eyes. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. Wait until we're actually succeeding." Sarah pulled out her phone. "Now, let's talk about what we need to build this department properly, starting with our first 5 hires and working backward from there." They spent the next 3 hours planning, strategizing, building something from nothing. By the time they finished, Lena had a framework, a timeline, and the first real hope that this might actually work. Friday arrived with the Tanaka deal closing and Ethan in meetings all day. Lena spent the time researching candidates for her team, building job descriptions, mapping out workspace requirements. Sarah had accepted formally that morning. Ethan had offered her 160 plus benefits, which she'd negotiated up to 170 with stock options. "Never accept the first offer," Sarah told Lena over the phone. "Always negotiate. It sets the tone for how much they'll respect you later." At 7 p.m., long after most people had left, Lena was still in her office when someone knocked. She looked up to find a little girl standing in her doorway, dark curls, gray eyes, wearing a school uniform and holding a stuffed rabbit. "Amelia?" The little girl smiled shyly. "Hi, Miss Lena. Daddy's still in his meeting. I finished my homework. Can I sit here?" Lena's heart melted. "Of course. Come in." Amelia climbed onto the couch, arranging her rabbit carefully beside her. "Daddy says you speak lots of languages, even more than Mama did." "Your Mama was very talented." "I know. She taught me Mandarin before she died." Amelia's voice was matter-of-fact in the way only children could manage with enormous concepts. "Daddy gets sad when I speak it sometimes, but I don't want to forget. Mama said forgetting is like losing someone twice." Lena crossed to the couch, sat down carefully. "Your Mama was right, and it's okay to remember her, even if it makes your daddy sad. Sadness means we loved someone a lot. Do you miss people?" "Yes. My daddy died 3 years ago. I miss him every day." Amelia nodded solemnly. "It's hard, huh?" "Very hard." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Amelia asked, "Can you teach me more words in different languages?" "Which language?" "All of them." Lena laughed. "That might take a while. How about we start with Italian? It's beautiful for songs." For the next 20 minutes, Lena taught Amelia simple Italian phrases, delighting in the little girl's perfect pronunciation and infectious enthusiasm. They were singing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star in Italian when Ethan appeared in the doorway. Amelia, I told you to wait in my office. But Miss Lena's office is nicer, and she's teaching me Italian. Amelia jumped up, running to her father. Daddy, listen! Brilla! Brilla la stellina! Ethan scooped her up, but his eyes were on Lena. Something soft had entered his expression, something that made Lena's breath catch. That's beautiful, sweetheart, he said, still looking at Lena. Did you thank Miss Lena for her time? Thank you, Miss Lena, Amelia called. Anytime, Amelia. Anytime. After they left, Lena sat in the silence of her office, her heart doing something complicated and dangerous in her chest. This job was supposed to be about linguistics, about proving herself, about financial security. It wasn't supposed to involve late nights with a billionaire who grieved his wife while raising his daughter alone. It wasn't supposed to include teaching Italian to a 6-year-old who missed her mother. It wasn't supposed to feel like maybe, possibly, Lena was becoming part of something bigger than a paycheck. But as she finally packed up and headed home, Lena couldn't shake the feeling that her life had irrevocably changed. And for the first time in 3 years, she wasn't sure if that terrified her or thrilled her. Maybe both. Probably both. The following Monday, Lena arrived at Callaway Technologies wearing one of her new outfits. A navy suit that actually fit, shoes that didn't pinch, confidence she was still learning to fake. Sarah met her in the lobby, looking equally professional and far more comfortable. Ready? Sarah asked. Not even a little bit. Perfect. That's when you do your best work. They rode the elevator to the 37th floor, where David had arranged a conference room for what he called department launch planning. When Lena walked in, she found whiteboards, laptops, coffee, and Ethan leaning against the window with his phone pressed to his ear. He saw them, wrapped up his call quickly. Lena, Dr. Kim. Good. You're both here. We have a problem. Lena's stomach dropped. What kind of problem? The good kind. Maybe. Jakarta's moving faster than expected. They want to finalize terms by end of month, which means we need someone on the ground there who can navigate both English and Bahasa Indonesia at a native level, plus understand tech contracts. We have 3 weeks. Sarah whistled low. That's not much time. I know someone, Lena said. The words came out before she'd fully thought them through. Devi Saraswati. She was in my graduate program, Indonesian American, grew up bilingual, worked for a semiconductor company before going back for her PhD. She's brilliant. Ethan pulled out his phone. Contact info? I don't have it anymore. We lost touch after graduation. Name's enough. Ethan typed rapidly. David will track her down. What else do you need? Lena glanced at Sarah, who nodded encouragement. Office space. You gave me one office, but we need a full suite if we're building a team. Somewhere we can work without constant interruptions, with enough room for at least 10 people eventually. 38th floor. The northwest corner's been empty since we restructured last year. It's yours. Ethan looked up from his phone. What else? Budget clarity, Sarah said. We can't hire aggressively without knowing our limits. $2 million for first-year operations. Salaries, equipment, travel, everything. If you need more, we'll revisit quarterly. Lena felt lightheaded. $2 million. She'd once worked 3 jobs just to make $30,000. And one more thing, Ethan added. I need you both at dinner Thursday night. Client entertainment. German tech firm considering a partnership. Their CEO speaks minimal English and my German's terrible. I need you to make sure nothing gets lost in translation. Client dinner? Lena asked. Formal. Expensive restaurant. Lots of schmoozing. Ethan's expression was unreadable. Think you can handle it? The challenge in his voice was subtle but unmistakable. Lena lifted her chin. I've worked in expensive restaurants, remember? I know which fork to use. Good. Because Klaus Schneider eats incompetence for breakfast, and he's been known to walk out of negotiations if he feels disrespected. We need this deal. Ethan checked his watch. I have a board meeting in 10 minutes. David will send details about Thursday. Make me look good. After he left, Sarah turned to Lena with raised eyebrows. Client dinner on your second week? He's throwing you in the deep end. Or testing me again. Maybe both. Sarah opened her laptop. Either way, we better make sure your German's sharp. When's the last time you used it professionally? College. Mostly academic contexts. Then we have work to do. Business German's different, more formal, lots of industry-specific terminology. We've got 3 days to get you ready. They spent the rest of Monday afternoon drilling vocabulary, practicing common business phrases, reviewing cultural protocols for German business etiquette. By the time Lena left that evening, her brain ached and she'd filled an entire notebook with notes. The next 3 days blurred together, mornings reviewing candidates for the Jakarta position and other openings, afternoons with Sarah running language drills, evenings researching Klaus Schneider's company, their technology, what they might want from Callaway Technologies. Lena barely saw Ethan except in passing, a brief nod in the hallway, a quick email about Thursday's logistics. He seemed to be avoiding her, which Lena told herself was fine. Professional distance. That's what they needed. But then Wednesday evening, working late again because she couldn't seem to leave before 8 anymore, Lena heard small footsteps in the corridor outside her office. "Miss Lena?" Amelia appeared, rabbit tucked under one arm. "Can we do more Italian?" Lena smiled despite her exhaustion. "Where's your dad?" "Still meeting. Always meeting." Amelia climbed onto the couch with the ease of familiarity. "Mrs. Chen says I should read quietly, but reading's boring. Italian's fun. Does Mrs. Chen know you're here?" "I told her I was going to the bathroom." "Amelia, please, just 10 minutes, then I'll go back." Lena should have said no. Should have walked Amelia back to Ethan's office, maintained proper boundaries. Instead, she found herself sitting beside the little girl, teaching her to count to 20 in Italian, laughing when Amelia insisted her rabbit needed to learn too. They were practicing colors when Ethan's voice cut through their laughter. "Amelia Marie Callaway." Amelia froze. Lena looked up to find Ethan in the doorway, his expression unreadable. "I told you to stay with Mrs. Chen," he said quietly. "But Daddy, Miss Lena was teaching me—" "Now, Amelia." The little girl's face crumpled. She grabbed her rabbit and ran past her father without looking back. Ethan watched her go, something painful flickering across his face before he turned that same expression on Lena. "I appreciate that you're kind to my daughter," he said, "but she can't keep interrupting your work. You have responsibilities." Lena stood slowly. "She wasn't interrupting. I offered." "You shouldn't have. Amelia gets attached easily, and when people leave—" He stopped himself. "Just, please, keep it professional." The words stung more than they should have. "Professional, right. Got it. Lena, no, you're absolutely right. I overstepped. Won't happen again." She started gathering her things with sharp, angry movements. "Is there anything else, Mr. Callaway?" Ethan flinched at the formality. "I didn't mean— Thursday night, dinner with Schneider. What time should I be ready?" 6:30. Car will pick you up." "Fine. I'll see you then." She brushed past him, heading for the elevator, refusing to look back even when she heard him call her name. The ride down felt endless, her throat tight with anger and hurt she had no right to feel. When she got home, Maya took one look at her face and poured wine without asking. "What happened?" "I'm an idiot," Lena said. "I forgot this is just a job. That Ethan's my boss, not my friend. That I'm there to translate contracts, not teach his daughter Italian." "Did he say something?" "He reminded me to keep it professional, which is completely reasonable and exactly what I should be doing." Lena drained half her glass. "So why do I feel like I got slapped?" Maya settled beside her on their ratty couch. "Because you like him." "I don't like him. He's complicated and bossy and you like him. You like his daughter. You like feeling needed for something other than your brain." Maya's voice was gentle. "Lena, there's nothing wrong with that. But maybe he's right to pump the brakes. You've known this guy for 2 weeks. You're still figuring out if you can trust him. Getting emotionally involved right now might not be the smartest move." Lena knew Maya was right. Didn't make it hurt less. Thursday arrived cold and gray, matching Lena's mood. She spent the day avoiding Ethan's floor, working from the soon-to-be department space on 38, which was currently just empty offices and potential. At 5, Sarah knocked on her door. "Ready for tonight?" "As I'll ever be." "You'll be great. Your German's solid, you know the company inside and out, and you've worked in high-end restaurants before. You've got this." "What if I don't?" "Then you fake it until you do. That's literally everyone's strategy in corporate America." Sarah squeezed her shoulder. Go home. Put on something that makes you feel powerful. Channel every fancy customer who ever condescended to you and become her. You belong in that room now. The dress Lena chose was new, black, simple, elegant. The kind of thing that cost more than her monthly rent used to. She styled her hair carefully, applied makeup with more precision than usual, looked at herself in the mirror, and barely recognized the woman staring back. The car arrived exactly at 6:30. Same driver, same silent efficiency. But this time, when Lena arrived at the restaurant, a different one, even more exclusive than Aurelius, Ethan was waiting outside. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost thousands, his hair styled back, looking every inch the billionaire CEO. When he saw Lena, something shifted in his expression. "You look—" He stopped himself. "Professional. Good." "Thank you." Lena's voice was cool. "Should we go in?" "Wait." Ethan touched her elbow lightly. "About yesterday. I was harsh. Amelia does get attached easily, and I worry about her getting hurt. But I shouldn't have taken that out on you. You've been nothing but kind to her. You were right to set boundaries. Maybe. But I could have done it better. Without making you feel like you'd done something wrong." His gray eyes searched hers. "We good?" Lena wanted to stay angry, wanted to maintain the professional distance he'd insisted on. But she could see the genuine apology in his face, the uncertainty. "We're good," she said finally. Ethan's shoulders relaxed minutely. "Okay, good. Because I need you sharp in there. Klaus is—" He trailed off as a limousine pulled up and three people emerged. The first was a man in his 60s, tall, severe-looking, with steel gray hair and the bearing of someone who'd never been told no. Behind him, a younger woman carrying a tablet and wearing an expression of permanent alertness. And third, a man about Ethan's age with sharp eyes and an expensive watch. "That's Klaus," Ethan murmured. "The woman is Greta, his assistant. The younger man is his son, Matthias. Matthias runs their R&D division, and he's who we really need to impress. Ready?" Before Lena could answer, Ethan was moving forward, hand extended, smile perfectly calibrated. "Klaus, thank you for making time tonight." Klaus shook his hand with minimal warmth. When he spoke, his English was heavily accented and clearly effortful. "Ethan, this restaurant better than last time, I hope. Only the best for Schneider Industries," Ethan gestured to Lena. "May I introduce Lena Brooks, head of our Linguistic Services Division. She'll be ensuring we all understand each other perfectly tonight." Klaus's gaze raked over Lena with the same dismissive assessment Richard had used. He said something in rapid German to Matthias, who smirked. Lena kept her expression neutral and responded in flawless German. "Good evening, Mr. Schneider. It's a pleasure to meet you. Mr. Calloway speaks very highly of your company's innovations in semiconductor technology." Klaus's eyebrows shot up. Matthias's smirk vanished. "Your German is excellent," Klaus said, switching languages. "Where did you study?" "Columbia University, though I spent a semester at Heidelberg." "Heidelberg, a good university." Klaus's demeanor shifted slightly, still reserved, but with a hint of respect. Perhaps this evening will not be a complete waste of time, after all. As they moved inside to their private dining room, Lena caught Ethan's eye. He gave her the smallest nod, something like pride flickering in his expression. The dinner started formally. Careful conversation, lots of posturing, everyone being polite while saying nothing of substance. Klaus clearly preferred speaking German, so Lena found herself translating continuously, keeping both conversations flowing naturally. She watched Ethan work, observed how he read the room, how he knew when to push and when to retreat, how he used silence as effectively as words. This was Ethan in his element, and it was fascinating. The real negotiation started over the main course. "Your proposal is interesting," Klaus said in German, cutting into his steak with surgical precision. "But I'm not convinced your company has the manufacturing capacity to meet our demands. We require reliability, not promises." Ethan looked to Lena, who translated smoothly. He responded, and Lena rendered it into German. "We've expanded our facilities significantly in the last year, but perhaps it would be more convincing if Matthias toured our operations directly. See for himself what we're capable of." Matthias leaned forward, interested. "When?" "Next week, if your schedule allows." Father and son exchanged looks. Klaus said something too quickly for Ethan to catch, but Lena heard every word. The CEO is arrogant, but the woman is competent. We should at least look. If the facilities match his claims, we proceed. If not, we walk and never waste time with Calloway again. Lena translated for Ethan, watching his jaw tighten slightly at being called arrogant. Please tell Mr. Schneider I appreciate his direct assessment, Ethan said carefully, and assure him that our facilities will exceed his expectations. The conversation continued for another hour, technical specifications, timeline discussions, quality control protocols. Lena translated everything, occasionally clarifying cultural nuances or suggesting alternative phrasings that would land better with Klaus's German sensibilities. By dessert, Klaus was almost smiling. Almost. You have done well tonight, Mr. Calloway, he said in accented English. Your translator is asset. Most Americans bring someone who speaks textbook German and understands nothing of business. Ms. Brooks understands both. Ms. Brooks is exceptional, Ethan agreed, and the warmth in his voice made Lena's chest tighten. As they were wrapping up, Matthias pulled Lena aside while the others discussed logistics. A word of advice, he said quietly in German. My father respects competence above all else. You impressed him tonight, which is rare. But be careful with Calloway. Men like him, powerful, driven, they see people as assets, useful until they're not. Don't mistake professional appreciation for something more. Lena met his eyes. Thank you for the concern, but I can take care of myself. I'm sure you can. Just remember, in business, everyone's replaceable eventually. Before Lena could respond, Ethan was beside her, his hand light on her lower back. Everything all right? Fine. Matthias was just complimenting the meal. Ethan's eyes flickered between them, clearly not believing her, but he didn't push. Instead, he guided her toward the exit as they said their goodbyes. In the car afterward, Ethan loosened his tie and let out a long breath. That went better than expected. Klaus actually laughed at one point. I didn't think he could laugh. You did well, Lena said. We did well. I couldn't have managed that without you. Ethan turned to look at her. Matthias said something to you at the end. What was it? Lena hesitated. Just business advice. Lena. He warned me that powerful men see people as assets, that I shouldn't confuse professional appreciation with anything else. Ethan was quiet for a long moment. And what did you say? That I can take care of myself. Good. Because... He stopped, started again. Because he's not entirely wrong. About men like me, I mean. I've spent years treating people as resources, as means to ends. It's how you survive in business. But with you, I'm trying to be different, better. I don't know if I'm succeeding. Lena's heart hammered. Why are you telling me this? Because I don't want you to wake up 6 months from now and realize I've been using you. Because what Matthias said, it's not wrong, but it's also not the whole truth. Yes, I hired you because you're useful, but I also hired you because I respect you, and those things aren't mutually exclusive. The car pulled up outside Lena's building, small, shabby, utterly out of place after the evening they'd just had. This is me, Lena said quietly. I know. Ethan's eyes searched her face. Same time Monday? Same time. She started to get out, but his voice stopped her. Lena, you were incredible tonight. Not just competent, incredible. I hope you know that. Lena nodded, not trusting her voice, and escaped into the November cold. Upstairs, Maya was still awake, waiting on the couch. How'd it go? I have no idea, Lena admitted. I think it went well professionally, but personally, she sank beside her roommate. Maya, I think I'm in trouble. You like him. I don't want to like him. He's my boss. He's complicated. He's got a daughter and a dead wife and walls higher than this building. It's a terrible idea. When has that ever stopped anyone? Maya asked gently. The following weeks developed a rhythm that felt both sustainable and dangerous. Days, Lena built her department, interviewing candidates, establishing protocols, handling increasingly complex projects. Devi accepted the Jakarta position. They hired a Japanese specialist, a French translator, an Arabic expert. Sarah managed the administrative logistics while Lena focused on the linguistic work. Evenings, more often than not, included Amelia. Ethan never said anything about his daughter appearing in Lena's office, but he stopped objecting. Sometimes he'd join them, sitting quietly, while Lena taught Amelia new phrases, new songs, new ways to see the world through language. Those were the moments that scared Lena most, the three of them, comfortable together, feeling dangerously like something she'd never let herself want. The Jakarta deal closed successfully. The Schneider partnership moved forward after Matthias's factory tour exceeded expectations. Callaway Technologies started winning contract bids they'd previously lost due to communication barriers, and Lena became indispensable. She didn't notice it happening, but suddenly she was in every major meeting, every critical negotiation, every conversation that mattered. Ethan consulted her on decisions that had nothing to do with linguistics. David started routing questions to her that should have gone elsewhere. Even Richard, who still clearly resented her existence, begrudgingly acknowledged her value. "You're becoming his right hand," Sarah observed one afternoon in December. "You realize that?" "I'm just doing my job." "No, you're doing three people's jobs, and Ethan's starting to rely on you for more than translation." Sarah's expression was concerned. "Lena, be careful. The closer you get, the harder it'll be if things go wrong." But Lena couldn't seem to help it. Every late-night working session, every shared coffee, every time Ethan smiled at something she said, she was falling and she knew it. The breaking point came 2 weeks before Christmas. Lena was working late, finalizing a contract for a Chinese partnership, when she heard raised voices from Ethan's office. She shouldn't have listened, should have put in headphones, minded her business. Instead, she crept closer. "Cannot keep making decisions based on personal feelings." Richard's voice, sharp with frustration. "I'm not." "You hired her after one night, Ethan. One night. No background check, no proper interviews, no vetting process, and now she's in every meeting, every decision, every conversation. It's inappropriate and everyone can see it." Lena's qualifications speak for themselves. Do they? Or do you just see Elena when you look at her? Silence. Heavy, dangerous silence. When Ethan spoke again, his voice was ice. "Be very careful what you say next." "I'm saying what everyone's thinking. You hired Lena because she reminds you of your dead wife, because she speaks languages and cares about communication and makes you feel less alone. But she's not Elena, and running a company based on nostalgia and loneliness is going to destroy everything we've built. Get out." "Ethan, get out before I fire you." Footsteps. The door slammed. Lena barely made it back to her office before Richard stormed past, his face red with anger. She sat in the dark, heart pounding, Richard's words echoing in her head. "You hired Lena because she reminds you of your dead wife." Was that true? Had Ethan hired her not for her skills, but because she was a convenient ghost? A replacement for something he'd lost? The knock on her door came 10 minutes later. Ethan stood in the doorway, looking wrecked. "You heard," he said. "Some of it." "How much?" Lena met his eyes. "Enough." Ethan stepped inside, closed the door. "Richard's wrong." "Is he?" "Yes. I didn't hire you because of Elena. I hired you because you saved my company, because you're brilliant, because you deserve better than what? Than being someone's second chance at something they lost?" Lena stood, anger and hurt warring in her chest. "Ethan, you told me yourself I remind you of her, your wife. You said I have the same convictions, the same beliefs about language and power. So how am I supposed to know if you value me for me or if I'm just a convenient stand-in for—" "Don't!" His voice cracked. "Don't finish that sentence." "Why not? Maybe Richard's right. Maybe everyone can see it except us. You're not over Elena. You'll never be over Elena. And I'm just the woman who happened to speak 9 languages at the right moment and filled a hole you didn't know how to close." "That's not true." "Then what is true?" Lena demanded. "Because I need to know. I need to know if this job is real, if the respect is real, if any of this matters, or if I'm just—" Her voice broke. "If I'm just auditioning for a role that's already been cast." Ethan crossed the space between them in 2 strides. "You want the truth? Fine. Yes, you remind me of Elena. Yes, watching you work, listening to you speak, seeing how much you care about using language to help people, it echoes something I lost. But that's not why I hired you, and it's not why I keep you close. I keep you close because you challenge me, because you call me out when I'm wrong, Because you make me want to be better than I am. That has nothing to do with Elena and everything to do with you. How do I know that's real? Because Ethan stopped, something desperate flickering across his face. Because I'm falling for you, and it terrifies me. Because I swore I'd never let anyone close again. And then you walked into my restaurant and spoke 9 languages and refused to be diminished, and I couldn't look away. Because every time you're in a room, I have to remind myself to focus on work instead of watching you. Because when Amelia talks about you, she smiles in a way she hasn't since her mother died, and it breaks my heart and fixes it at the same time. Lena couldn't breathe. Ethan, I'm not asking you to feel the same way. I'm not asking you for anything. I'm just telling you the truth because you asked for it. Richard's wrong. You're not a replacement. You're something entirely new, and I don't know what to do with that except try not to ruin it. The silence stretched between them, thick with everything unsaid. I'm falling for you too, Lena whispered finally. And it scares me because I don't know if I can trust it. If I can trust you. You tested me, manipulated me, apologized, respected me. I don't know which version of you is real. All of them. None of them. Ethan ran his hands through his hair. I'm not good at this, Lena. Relationships, emotions, vulnerability. I spent 5 years building walls and now I'm trying to tear them down and I don't know how. I make mistakes. I hurt people without meaning to. I'm going to screw this up. Probably. He laughed, broken, honest. So what do we do? Lena looked at him, this complicated, damaged, brilliant man who'd changed her life in a matter of weeks. We figure it out. Together. No more tests. No more manipulation. No more secrets. If this is real, we do it honestly or not at all. Honestly, Ethan repeated. I can try that. Not try. Do. Okay? He stepped closer, close enough that Lena could feel the warmth radiating from him. Then here's my honesty. I want to kiss you right now, and I have no idea if that's appropriate or professional or wise. But it's true. Lena's heart hammered against her ribs. Here's my honesty. I want you to. Ethan's hand came up, cupping her face with a gentleness that contradicted everything about his reputation. If we do this, everything changes. I know. There's no going back. I know. He kissed her then, soft at first, questioning, giving her space to pull away. When she didn't, when she leaned into him instead, the kiss deepened into something that felt like falling and landing at the same time. When they finally broke apart, Ethan rested his forehead against hers. We're going to have to tell HR. Lena laughed breathlessly. That's what you're thinking about right now? I'm thinking about a lot of things, but mainly I'm thinking I haven't felt this alive in 5 years, and it's because of you. Ethan, also I'm thinking Richard's probably going to have an aneurysm when he finds out. Definitely. They stood there in the dark office, Manhattan glittering around them, everything uncertain and terrifying and impossibly right. This was dangerous. This was complicated. This was probably the worst professional decision either of them had ever made. And neither of them cared. The morning after this kiss, Lena woke up with her phone buzzing and her heart in her throat. Text from Ethan. We need to talk. My office. 8 a.m. No emoji. No warmth. Just 5 words that felt like ice water. Maya found her pacing the kitchen at 6:30, already dressed, coffee untouched. What happened? I kissed my boss last night. Or he kissed me. We kissed each other. Lena pressed her palms against her eyes. And now he wants to talk. Which probably means he's going to tell me it was a mistake and I need to find another job and I just ruined the best thing that's ever happened to me. Or, Maya said carefully, he wants to figure out how to make it work. You didn't see the text. It was corporate, cold. Maybe he's just scared too. But Lena couldn't shake the dread as the car service drove her through early morning Manhattan. She'd let herself want something. Let herself believe for one night that maybe she could have both the career and the man and the life she'd stopped dreaming about years ago. Now she was going to lose it all. David met her in the lobby, his expression unreadable. He's waiting for you. The elevator ride to the 40th floor felt like a descent, not an ascent. When the doors opened, Ethan stood outside his office, phone pressed to his ear, looking exhausted. He saw her, ended his call abruptly. Come in. His office was massive, Floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist furniture, photos of Amelia scattered across his desk like anchors to reality. Lena had only been in here twice before. Both times she'd been too nervous to really look around. Now, she noticed everything. The empty coffee cups, the tie draped over his chair, the rumpled appearance that suggested he'd been here all night. Ethan closed the door, leaned against it. I didn't sleep. Me neither. I spent 7 hours researching company policy, HR regulations, conflict of interest protocols. He scrubbed his face with both hands. There's no explicit rule against executives dating subordinates, but there are protocols, disclosure requirements, potential reassignment of reporting structures. Lena's stomach dropped. You're reassigning me. No, I'm giving you a choice. Ethan moved to his desk, pulled out a folder. Option 1, we disclose the relationship to HR. You keep your current position, but you'd report to Sarah instead of directly to me. We establish clear professional boundaries, document everything, submit to quarterly reviews to ensure there's no favoritism or conflict of interest. That sounds awful. It is. It's bureaucratic and invasive, and it means every decision I make about your department gets scrutinized for personal bias. He set down the folder. Option 2, we don't pursue this. Last night was a moment of weakness. We move forward professionally, maintain distance, pretend it never happened. The words landed like punches. Is that what you want? No, but I need you to understand what you're choosing if we do this. Ethan's voice was raw. Dating me means public scrutiny. It means people like Richard questioning your credentials, your achievements, everything you've built. It means some people will always believe you slept your way to the top, no matter how brilliant you are. It means Amelia getting attached to someone who might not stay. It means, why are you trying to talk me out of this? Because I'm terrified of hurting you. The admission burst out of him like something he'd been holding back too long. Because everyone I love either leaves or gets taken from me. Because I'm damaged in ways that don't show up in therapy or company policies. Because you deserve better than someone who's still in love with a ghost. Lean across the space between them slowly. Are you? Still in love with Elena? Ethan's expression cracked. I don't know. I loved her for 7 years. She died 3 years ago. I built my entire life around that grief. And then you showed up and suddenly I'm feeling things I thought died with her. And I don't know if that's healing or betrayal or both. It's not betrayal to move forward. Then why does it feel like I'm erasing her? Lena took his hands, something she'd never done before. Something that felt monumental and terrifying. You're not erasing anyone. You're just making room for something new. And maybe Elena would want that for you. Maybe she'd want you to be happy instead of alone in a tower you built to keep the world out. Ethan's eyes glistened. You quoted what you said to me that night at Aurelius in Spanish. I remember what I said. I also remember meaning it. Lena squeezed his hands. But here's what I didn't say then. Those walls you built? They're not protecting you anymore. They're just making you lonely. And I think you're ready to tear them down, but you're scared of what happens after. Well, here's the truth. I'm scared too. I'm terrified this ends with me getting hurt, but I'm more terrified of walking away and spending the rest of my life wondering what if. Lena, I choose option 1. We disclose. We deal with the bureaucracy and the scrutiny and Richard having a meltdown. We figure it out together honestly, like we promised. She met his eyes. Unless you're choosing option 2. If you are, tell me now so I can start protecting myself. Ethan pulled her close, wrapped his arms around her like she was the only solid thing in a tilting world. I'm choosing you. Every time. I just needed you to understand the cost. I understand, and I'm choosing this anyway. They stood there for a long moment, holding on to each other, both of them shaking slightly with the magnitude of what they'd just decided. A knock interrupted them. David's voice filtered through the door. Ethan? Your 8:30's waiting in conference room A. Ethan pulled back, pressed a kiss to Lena's forehead. We'll go to HR this afternoon, together. Fair warning, Margaret's going to have a lot of questions. I'm good at answers. I know you are. He smiled, genuinely smiled, the expression transforming his entire face. Go build your empire. I'll see you at lunch. But as Lena left his office, past David's knowing look, rode the elevator down 3 floors to her department, She couldn't shake the feeling that choosing this had just made her target of every enemy Ethan had accumulated. She was right. By noon, Richard had called an emergency executive meeting to discuss inappropriate workplace relationships and their impact on company culture. Lena wasn't invited, but Sarah was, and she came back to their department looking shaken. Richard knows, Sarah said, closing Lena's office door. I don't know how, but he knows. He implied without naming names that certain executives were making hiring decisions based on personal attraction rather than qualifications. He suggested implementing new policies requiring third-party oversight of all executive hires. Targeting me, targeting you, and Ethan by extension. Sarah sat down heavily. Lena, this is going to get ugly. Richard's positioning himself as the defender of company integrity. He's got allies on the board who already think Ethan's too impulsive, too willing to break protocol. If they see you as proof of that, they'll use me to undermine him. Exactly. Lena's phone buzzed. Text from Ethan. Don't go to HR yet. We need to strategize first. She showed Sarah, who nodded grimly. Smart. If Richard's already mobilizing, walking into HR without a plan could backfire. The rest of the day felt like waiting for an axe to fall. Lena tried to work, reviewing contracts, managing her team, handling the normal demands of running a department, but every notification made her jump. Every footstep in the hallway made her tense. At 6, David appeared. Ethan needs to see you. His place, not the office. I'll drive you. Lena's heart hammered. His place? He thought neutral territory was better right now. Less chance of being overheard. The drive took 30 minutes, heading north into a neighborhood Lena had only seen in magazines. David pulled up to a brownstone that managed to be both elegant and understated, the kind of wealth that didn't need to scream. Ethan answered the door himself, still in his work clothes minus the tie. Come in. Amelia's at her grandmother's tonight, so we can talk freely. The interior was beautiful. Hardwood floors, high ceilings, art that was probably worth more than Lena's life. But it also felt lived in. Amelia's drawings on the refrigerator, shoes by the door, a home, not a showpiece. Wine? Ethan offered. God, yes. He poured 2 glasses, led her to a living room with a fireplace and furniture that looked comfortable rather than expensive. They sat on opposite ends of the couch, a careful distance between them. Richard's making his move, Ethan said. He's been laying groundwork for weeks, apparently. Talking to board members about my judgment, my decision-making, my stability. You were just the ammunition he was waiting for. So what do we do? We beat him to it. Ethan set down his wine. Tomorrow morning, I'm calling a full board meeting. I'm going to disclose our relationship myself, explain the HR protocols we're implementing, and make it clear that your position is based entirely on merit. I'll provide documentation, the Tanaka contract, the Schneider deal, every successful project you've led. I'll show them that questioning your qualifications is absurd. Richard will fight that. Of course he will. He'll argue I'm biased, that the documentation is cherry-picked, that the relationship compromises objectivity. Ethan leaned forward. But here's what Richard doesn't know. I've been documenting his mistakes for months. The Jakarta deal nearly fell apart because he rushed the timeline against my advice. The German partnership almost failed because he ignored cultural protocol recommendations. I have emails, memos, meeting notes. If he wants to question someone's judgment, I'll question his right back. Lena felt sick. This is war. This was always war. Richard's been undermining me since Elena died. He thinks I'm weak, distracted, vulnerable. He sees you as proof. Ethan's voice hardened. He's wrong, and tomorrow I'm going to prove it. What do you need from me? Your presence, your competence, your refusal to be diminished. Ethan met her eyes. And your honesty about something I need to ask you. What? Do you regret this? Choosing us over easier options? Lena thought about her life 2 months ago. The apartment, the double shifts, the invisibility, the dreams she'd buried so deep she'd forgotten they existed. No, she said, but I'm scared. I've never been in a fight like this. I've never had this much to lose. Neither have I, not since Elena. Ethan moved closer, took her hand. But I meant what I said this morning. I'm choosing you, which means protecting you from the fallout of that choice. If the board meeting goes badly, if Richard wins, then we deal with it together. You might lose your position, Then I'll find another one. I have credentials now, experience, references. I'll survive. Lena squeezed his hand. What I won't survive is walking away because it got hard. I've done that before, Ethan. Walked away from things I wanted because other people made me feel like I didn't deserve them. I'm not doing that anymore. Ethan pulled her close, kissed her with an intensity that felt like desperation and hope tangled together. When they broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. "Stay tonight," he said quietly. "Not for... I don't want to be alone right now. And Amelia's not here, and the house feels too empty, and I'm asking you to stay, even though it's probably a terrible idea given what we're walking into tomorrow." Lena knew she should say no. Knew staying would complicate everything, would give Richard more ammunition if he somehow found out, would blur lines that were already dangerously blurred. "Okay," she said anyway. They ordered takeout, Chinese food from a place Ethan swore made the best dumplings in Manhattan. They ate sitting on his kitchen floor because Lena said his dining room was too formal, and he laughed and agreed. They talked about everything except work, her childhood, his college years, the strange paths that had led them both here. "Did you always want to build a tech empire?" Lena asked, stealing the last dumpling. "No. I wanted to be a teacher, actually. History." Ethan smiled at her surprise. "I was good with computers, but they were just tools. I cared about stories, about how civilizations communicated, how language shaped power structures. Sound familiar?" "Very. Then I met Elena. She was volunteering with a refugee organization, and they needed someone to build a database for tracking translation needs. I helped, and suddenly I saw how technology could facilitate communication on a massive scale. That's when everything changed. I started Callaway Tech to build translation software, interpretation tools, communication platforms. Money came later, almost accidentally. That's not the story the magazines tell. Magazines want the ruthless CEO narrative. Boy genius builds empire, crushes competition, rules with iron fist. It's cleaner than the truth." Ethan's expression grew distant. "The truth is I got lucky. Right place, right innovation, right timing. And when Elena died, I poured all my grief into work because I didn't know how else to survive. The empire you see now, it's built on loss as much as ambition." Lena ached for him, for the young man who wanted to teach history, for the husband who lost his wife too soon, for the father raising a daughter alone. "She'd be proud of you," Lena said softly. "Elena, of what you built, how you're raising Amelia, the fact that you're trying to move forward. You didn't know her. You can't know that. I know you, and I know anyone who loved you would want you to be happy." Ethan's eyes glistened, but he blinked the tears back. "Tell me about your father. You mentioned him once, but we never talked about it." So Lena told him about her father's diagnosis, the slow decline, the medical bills that ate everything, about sitting beside his hospital bed practicing languages because he said hearing her speak made the pain less. About his last words, "Don't waste your brilliance making other people comfortable." "That's why you stood up to me," Ethan said. "At Aurelius, you were honoring him." "I was honoring myself. He just gave me permission." They talked until midnight, until exhaustion finally caught them. Ethan showed Lena to a guest room, tastefully decorated, impersonal, clearly unused. "There's clothes in the closet if you need them, towels in the bathroom. I'm down the hall if you need anything." He hesitated at the door. "Thank you for staying, for tomorrow, for all of it." "Ethan?" "Yeah?" "We're going to be okay. Whatever Richard throws at us, whatever the board says, we'll figure it out." He wanted to believe her. She could see it in his eyes. But she could also see the doubt, the fear, the scars from losing too much before. After he left, Lena lay in a bed that cost more than her car used to, in a house that felt like a museum of grief and money, and wondered if she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life. Her phone buzzed. Text from Maya. "You okay? It's midnight and you're not home?" Lena typed back, "Staying at Ethan's. Long story. Board meeting tomorrow. Might lose everything." Maya's response came immediately. "Or you might win everything. Either way, I'm proud of you for trying." Lena fell asleep holding on to that thought. She woke to morning light streaming through unfamiliar windows and the smell of coffee. When she emerged from the guest room, she found Ethan in the kitchen, dressed for war in a charcoal suit, making breakfast like this was normal. "Toast? Eggs? I'm not a great cook, but I can manage basics. Coffee's fine. He poured her a cup, their fingers brushing in the transfer. The board meeting's at 10. I briefed David last night. He'll have all the documentation ready. Your project files, performance metrics, everything we need. What if it's not enough? Then we adjust. But Lena, I need you to know something. Ethan set down his coffee. If the board forces a choice, you or my position as CEO, I'm choosing you. What? No. Ethan, this company is your life. This company is a job. You're... He stopped, started again. You're something I didn't think I'd find again. Someone who makes me want to be better instead of just successful. If losing the company is the price of keeping you, I'll pay it. That's insane. You can't throw away everything you built. Watch me. They stared at each other across the kitchen island, the morning light making everything sharp and clear. We're not going to lose, Lena said finally, because I'm not going to let Richard win. He wants to use me to destroy you? Fine. I'll prove him wrong. I'll walk into that boardroom and show them exactly why you hired me. Not because you're weak or sentimental or compromised, because you're brilliant enough to recognize talent when everyone else overlooked it. Ethan smiled, and it was fierce. There's the woman I fell for. The drive to Callaway Technologies felt like heading to an execution. David met them in the lobby with a tablet and a grim expression. Richard brought in 3 board members early. They've been meeting privately for an hour. He handed Ethan the tablet. The agenda just got leaked. They're calling for a vote on your leadership. Ethan's jaw tightened. Then let's give them something to vote on. The boardroom was on the 42nd floor, all glass and chrome. A table that could seat 20. Manhattan spread below like a conquered kingdom. 10 board members were already seated. Richard sat at the far end, looking smug. Lena took a seat beside Ethan, feeling every eye in the room dissect her presence. The board chair, a woman in her 60s named Victoria Chen, called the meeting to order. We have significant concerns to address today. Richard, you called this meeting. The floor is yours. Richard stood, smoothing his tie. Thank you, Victoria. I'll be direct. Over the past 2 months, our CEO has made several questionable decisions that call into question his judgment and fitness to lead this company. Specifically, he hired an unvetted candidate with 0 corporate experience to run a newly created department, granted her unprecedented access and authority, and is now, according to rumors, personally involved with her. This represents a clear conflict of interest and potential liability for Callaway Technologies. He pulled up a presentation. Photos of Lena at Aurelius appeared on the screen. Someone had done their research. Her employment history, her salary jump, her rapid promotion. Ms. Brooks went from waitress to executive in a matter of days. While I'm sure she's a lovely person, this is not how serious companies operate. This is how CEOs in crisis make emotional decisions that endanger shareholder value. Lena felt heat crawl up her neck, but she kept her expression neutral. Victoria turned to Ethan. Your response? Ethan stood slowly. When he spoke, his voice was measured, controlled, the opposite of Richard's performance. Richard's right about one thing. I hired Lena Brooks quickly. What he's conveniently omitting is why. David, pull up the Tanaka contract files. The screen changed. The original Japanese contract appeared beside Lena's annotated version, the hidden clauses highlighted in red. This is the $400 million deal we almost lost because our existing translation services missed critical language designed to steal our patents. Lena identified the problems in 7 hours and rewrote the entire contract. That deal closed successfully last month and is now generating revenue. Next. David clicked. The Schneider presentation appeared. This is the German partnership that Klaus Schneider himself said would have failed without Lena's cultural consultation and real-time interpretation. That partnership is now worth $200 million annually. Next, more projects, more successes, each one documented, quantified, proven. In 2 months, Lena Brooks has directly generated or protected over $600 million in value for this company. She's built a department that's already considered best in class among our competitors. And yes, I hired her quickly, because when you find once-in-a-generation talent, you don't waste time with bureaucracy. You secure it. Richard jumped in. But the personal relationship was disclosed to HR yesterday afternoon, following all required protocols. We've implemented reporting structure changes, oversight mechanisms, and quarterly reviews. Everything by the book. Ethan's voice hardened. What's not by the book is calling a board meeting to question an employee's credentials based on rumors and speculation. If this were about protecting the company, Richard would have raised concerns through proper channels. Instead, he's grandstanding because he doesn't like that someone younger, newer, and more talented is doing work he can't. Bossy, that's not, I'm not finished. Ethan turned to the board. You want to question my judgment? Fine. Let's question everyone's. David, pull up the Jakarta files. Richard went pale. The screen showed email chains, memos, timeline documents, all showing Richard pushing for an accelerated deal closure despite Ethan's objections, despite consultant warnings, despite every indication it would fail. Richard's aggressive timeline nearly cost us the Jakarta partnership. Only Lena's intervention, sending our Indonesian specialist on an emergency trip to salvage negotiations, saved it. Cost us an extra $200,000 in expedited travel and consulting fees, all because Richard prioritized his bonus over company interests. Ethan, that's not fair. Should I continue? The vendor contract you approved without legal review that cost us a lawsuit? The hiring freeze you recommended that lost us 3 senior engineers to competitors? You want to talk about questionable judgment, Richard? Let's talk about yours. The boardroom was silent except for the air conditioning. Victoria looked between them. This is clearly personal. We need to separate facts from vendetta. You're right, Ethan said. So here are the facts. Lena Brooks has generated quantifiable value. She's followed all required protocols regarding our relationship. And she's done more for this company in 2 months than most executives do in years. If the board wants to vote on my leadership because I fell in love with someone brilliant, that's your prerogative. But you should know that if you force me to choose between this position and her, I'm choosing her every time. The declaration hung in the air like a bomb. One of the board members, an older man named Harrison, leaned forward. Ms. Brooks, you've been quiet through this. What's your perspective? Lena stood on shaking legs. My perspective is that I earned my position. Not through personal relationships, not through luck, through skill and hard work and results. Mr. Morrison wants you to believe I'm a liability. But the real liability is rejecting talent because it doesn't arrive in the package you expected. I came from a restaurant. I came from nothing. That doesn't make me less qualified. It makes me hungry in ways people who've always had power can't understand. She looked directly at Richard. You're right that Ethan took a chance on me, but chances aren't charity when they're backed by proof. I've proven myself repeatedly, and if this board votes to remove me or punish Ethan for recognizing my value, you're not protecting the company. You're protecting mediocrity because excellence makes you uncomfortable. Victoria smiled slightly. Strong words, Ms. Brooks. True words. And I'm done apologizing for being good at what I do. The vote, when it came, wasn't close. 8-2 in Ethan's favor. Only Richard and one ally voted against him. Richard left the boardroom without a word, his face murderous. Victoria approached Ethan and Lena as the others filed out. That was quite a performance, both of you. It wasn't a performance, Ethan said. It was the truth. Perhaps. But truth and wisdom aren't always the same thing. She turned to Lena. You've made an enemy today, Ms. Brooks. Richard doesn't forgive easily. Watch your back. After she left, Ethan and Lena stood alone in the empty boardroom. We won, Lena said, but it felt hollow. We survived. Different thing. Ethan pulled her close, pressed a kiss to her temple. Thank you for standing up for yourself. For us. We're really doing this. Public relationship, everyone knowing, no more hiding. Having second thoughts? Lena considered lying, then remembered their promise. I'm terrified, but I'm in. Good. Because there's someone I need you to meet. Who? Ethan's expression shifted, vulnerable, nervous. Amelia. Officially. As someone important in my life, not just her Italian teacher. Lena's breath caught. Ethan, that's huge. Are you sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. He took her hand. My sister's dropping her off tonight. Dinner at my place. Just the 3 of us. If you're ready. What if she hates me? She won't. She already loves you. I just need her to understand what you mean to me. Ethan's voice dropped. Because if we're doing this, really doing this, she needs to be part of it. You both do. And there it was. The real risk. Not the board, not Richard, not company politics. A 6-year-old girl who'd already lost her mother, who might lose anyone else she let herself love. Okay, Lena whispered. Tonight. I'll be there. But as they left the boardroom together, Lena couldn't shake the feeling that she'd just agreed to something that would either heal them all or break them beyond repair. Lena changed clothes 3 times before the dinner. Maya watched from the doorway of their shared bathroom, offering commentary that ranged from helpful to brutal. Too formal. You're meeting a 6-year-old, not the Queen of England. Too casual. You want to show that you take this seriously. Perfect. Wait, no. That color makes you look like you're trying too hard. Lena finally settled on jeans and a soft sweater, approachable but put together. She stared at herself in the mirror, wondering when her life had become this. Meeting her boyfriend's daughter, having a boyfriend who was a billionaire CEO, being someone whose choices mattered beyond just herself. You're spiraling, Maya observed. I'm terrified. What if Amelia decides she doesn't want me around? What if I say something wrong and she thinks I'm trying to replace her mother? What if you just show up and be yourself, the same person who taught her Italian and made her laugh? Maya squeezed her shoulder. Kids aren't stupid, Lena. They can tell when someone's faking, so don't fake. Just be the woman who cares about her dad and thinks she's special. That's all you need to be. The car arrived at 6. Lena clutched a bag containing a children's book in Italian she'd found at a bookstore during lunch. A peace offering, or maybe a bribe. She wasn't sure which. Ethan answered the door in jeans and a sweater that matched hers accidentally, and they both laughed nervously at the coincidence. She's in the living room, he said quietly. Fair warning, my sister told her you're coming. She's been asking questions all afternoon. What kind of questions? Whether you're my girlfriend, whether you're nice, whether you speak more languages than Mama did. Ethan's expression was complex. I told her yes to all 3. Lena's throat tightened. And what did she say? She asked if you like grilled cheese sandwiches. Apparently that's her litmus test for trustworthy adults. I love grilled cheese sandwiches. Then you'll be fine. But when Lena walked into the living room and saw Amelia sitting on the couch with her rabbit, looking small and uncertain, all her rehearsed words evaporated. Hi, Miss Lena, Amelia said softly. Hi, Amelia. Lena sat down carefully, leaving space between them. Your dad said you had questions for me? Amelia nodded, her gray eyes, so much like Ethan's, studying Lena seriously. Are you Daddy's girlfriend? Yes. Is that okay? I don't know yet. The honesty was brutal and refreshing. Daddy's been sad for a long time, since Mama died. Do you make him not sad? Lena glanced at Ethan, who stood in the doorway looking like his heart was being ripped out. I try to, but it's okay to still be sad about your mama. Being happy about new things doesn't mean forgetting the things we lost. Mrs. Chen at school says Mama's in heaven watching me. Do you think she minds that Daddy has a girlfriend now? The question hung in the air, impossible and essential. Lena thought about her own father, about the last thing he'd said to her, about permission and legacy and love that survived beyond endings. I think, Lena said carefully, your mama loved your daddy very much, and people who love each other want the other person to be happy, even after they're gone. So no, I don't think she minds. I think she'd be glad your daddy found someone who cares about him, and about you. Amelia considered this. Do you care about me? Very much. You're smart and funny, and you learn Italian faster than anyone I've ever taught. Do you speak more languages than Mama? A few more. But your mama was still amazing, and she taught you something really important, that language connects people across different worlds. That's a gift. Amelia was quiet for a moment. Then, I brought you something. She disappeared down the hall, came back clutching a photo album. She climbed onto the couch beside Lena, opened it carefully. Photos of Elena filled the pages. A beautiful woman with dark hair and Amelia's smile, laughing in various settings, at a beach in front of the Eiffel Tower holding a newborn Amelia in a hospital bed. This is Mama, Amelia said. Daddy doesn't look at these anymore because they make him cry, but I look at them every night so I don't forget her face. Do you want to see? Lena's eyes burned. I'd love to. They went through the album together, Amelia narrating each photo with the gravity of a museum curator. This is when Mama and Daddy got married. This is my first birthday. This is at the zoo. Mama loved elephants. Ethan had moved to sit in a chair across from them, his face unreadable, but his eyes suspiciously bright. She was beautiful, Lena said softly. She was the best mama ever. Amelia traced her mother's face in one photo. But she's gone now. And Daddy says it's okay to love people even when they're gone, and also okay to love new people too. So I decided I can like you. If you promise something. What's that? Promise you won't go away like Mama did. Daddy needs someone to stay. The word shattered something in Lena's chest. She looked at Ethan, saw the same brokenness reflected in his expression. Amelia, Ethan said gently, that's not fair to ask. Sometimes people leave even when they don't want to. That's not their fault. But they can promise to try not to, Amelia insisted. Right, Miss Lena? You can promise to try? Lena had spent her whole life avoiding promises she couldn't guarantee. But looking at this little girl who'd lost so much, who was brave enough to open her heart again despite knowing the cost, Lena found herself nodding. I promise to try my very hardest to stay. I can't control everything, but I can control choosing to be here. And I choose to be here. With you and your dad. Amelia studied her face, then nodded decisively. Okay, now do you want grilled cheese? Daddy makes them really good. The tension broke. Ethan laughed, swiping at his eyes. Grilled cheese it is. Come on, kiddo. You can help. They moved to the kitchen, Amelia chattering about school, while Ethan assembled sandwiches with the focused precision he probably used for billion-dollar deals. Lena watched them together. The careful way Ethan listened to every word his daughter said, the way Amelia climbed onto the counter despite being told not to, the easy rhythm of two people who'd built a life from ruins. Miss Lena, did you bring something? Amelia had spotted the bag Lena had left by the door. Oh, yes, just a little something. Lena retrieved the book, suddenly nervous. It's in Italian. I thought maybe we could read it together sometime. Amelia's face lit up. Now! Can we read it now? After dinner, Ethan said. Food first. They ate at the kitchen table, the formal dining room apparently reserved for people Ethan was trying to impress rather than people he actually cared about. The conversation flowed easily, Amelia asking Lena questions that ranged from reasonable to absurd. What's your favorite language? Do you have a rabbit like Mr. Flopsy? Can you teach Daddy Italian too? He only knows like 5 words. 6 words, Ethan protested. What's the word for grilled cheese? Formaggio alla griglia, Lena supplied. Amelia tried to repeat it, mangling the pronunciation in a way that was absolutely endearing. Ethan caught Lena's eye across the table, and something passed between them. Gratitude, wonder, terror at how much this moment mattered. After dinner, they settled in the living room with the Italian book. Amelia curled against Lena's side like it was the most natural thing in the world, while Ethan sat nearby pretending to read emails but actually watching them. Lena read slowly, translating as she went, letting Amelia sound out words and ask questions. The story was simple, a little girl learning to speak to animals in their own languages, but Amelia was captivated. That's like you, she said. You speak to everyone in their language. That's like a superpower. You have that superpower too. You speak English and Mandarin. I want to learn all the languages, like you. Then we'll learn them together. By the time they finished the book, Amelia's eyes were drooping. Ethan scooped her up. Bedtime, sweetheart. But I'm not tired, Amelia protested, yawning. Sure you're not. Say goodnight to Lena. Amelia wrapped her arms around Lena's neck, squeezed tight. Good night, Miss Lena. Will you come back? If your dad invites me, absolutely. Daddy, invite her back. I will. Now bed. Ethan carried his daughter upstairs, leaving Lena alone in the living room with the Italian book and a heart that felt too full for her chest. When Ethan returned 15 minutes later, he looked exhausted and happy, and something else Lena couldn't name. She wants you to tuck her in too, he said. She never asks that. Not since Elena. Lena followed him upstairs to a bedroom decorated in soft purples and yellows, walls covered with drawings and photos and evidence of a life being lived despite grief. Amelia was already under the covers, Mr. Flopsy beside her. Will you teach me that song? Amelia asked. The Italian one about stars? So Lena sat on the edge of the bed and sang Brilla, brilla la stellina softly, while Amelia's eyes closed and her breathing evened out. When Lena finally stopped singing, she found Ethan in the doorway, tears streaming down his face. They went downstairs in silence. Ethan poured wine with shaking hands, led Lena to the couch, and just held her for a long moment. "I didn't think I'd ever see that again," he said finally. "Someone tucking her in, singing to her, making her feel safe enough to ask for more. She's incredible, Ethan. She likes you, really likes you, which means I need to tell you something, and you're not going to like it." Lena pulled back to see his face. "What?" "Richard's not done. I got a message from Victoria tonight. He's filed a formal complaint with the board, alleging that our relationship creates a hostile work environment for other employees. He's demanding an independent investigation. An investigation into what? Into whether I've shown favoritism, whether other qualified candidates were passed over for roles in your department, whether company resources have been used inappropriately." Ethan's jaw tightened. "It's all bullshit, but it's official bullshit, which means lawyers, interviews, scrutiny of every decision we've made since you were hired." Lena felt the perfect evening curdle in her stomach. "He's trying to destroy us. He's trying to destroy me through you. And here's the worst part. The investigation could take months. During that time, we'd need to maintain complete professional distance. No dinners, no personal contact at work, definitely no public displays of affection. We'd have to prove there's been no impropriety by essentially acting like we don't care about each other. For how long? 3 to 6 months. Maybe more." Lena stood, started pacing. "So Richard gets to dictate our relationship? Gets to force us apart because he's vindictive? Unless we give him what he wants." "Which is?" Ethan looked at her steadily. "I step down as CEO, voluntarily. Richard becomes interim CEO during the transition to new leadership. You keep your position. He has no grounds to target you if I'm gone, and we get to be together without the company being collateral damage." The words landed like punches. "No, absolutely not. You're not sacrificing everything you built because Richard's an ass. I'm not sacrificing anything. I'm choosing what matters." Ethan stood, crossed to her. "Lena, I built this company to honor Elena's memory, to create something that would outlast me, that would help people communicate across barriers. But somewhere along the way, it became a cage. I forgot why I started. I forgot that businesses are just structures. What matters is the people inside them. You're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking clearly for the first time in years." He took her hands. "If staying CEO means losing you, losing the chance to actually live instead of just work, losing the possibility of Amelia having something like a normal family, I don't want it. The company will survive without me. I won't survive losing another person I love." Lena's breath caught. "You love me?" "I'm completely in love with you. Have been since you told me off in Spanish and walked out of Aurelius. Maybe before." Ethan's voice shook. "And I'm tired of letting fear run my life. Tired of choosing safety over happiness. So yes, if stepping down means we can be together without Richard holding it over our heads, I'll do it gladly." "What if I don't want you to? What if I want to fight?" "Then we fight. But I need you to understand what we're fighting for and what it'll cost. Because Richard won't stop. This investigation is just the beginning. He'll find other ways to make our lives difficult, to question every decision, to poison every success with doubt. Is that really how you want to spend the next year of your life?" Lena pulled away, moved to the window overlooking Manhattan. The city glittered below, indifferent to human drama, to heartbreak, to impossible choices. She thought about her father, dying in a hospital bed while bills piled up. About promises she'd made to herself never to be powerless again. About the girl who'd served wine to people who didn't see her, who'd fought her way to a position where she finally mattered. "I spent 3 years invisible," Lena said quietly. "Serving food to people who treated me like furniture. Taking shit from customers who thought tipping 20% gave them license to be cruel. I survived that by telling myself someday I'd be somewhere that valued me, that saw me, that let me use my brain instead of just my ability to smile through humiliation. I know. I'm not done." She turned to face him. "You gave me that. You saw me when I was invisible. You gave me a chance when I'd stopped believing chances existed. You built something where I could be brilliant instead of small. And now you're asking if I want to fight for it?" "Lena, of course I want to fight for it, but not because of the job or the money or the title, because of what it represents. Because letting Richard win means accepting that people like him, people who inherited power and wield it carelessly, get to decide who deserves opportunities, and I refuse to accept that. Ethan stared at her. So what are you saying? I'm saying we fight, together. We document everything. We follow every protocol. We make Richard's investigation find nothing because there's nothing to find. We prove that hiring me was brilliant business, not personal weakness, and we do it without you sacrificing your company. Lena crossed back to him. But here's the condition. We do it honestly. No more games, no more testing. No more wondering if we're choosing each other because we love each other or because we're afraid to be alone. We go into this eyes open, knowing it'll be hard, knowing we might fail. But we try. Didn't I shit? What if trying isn't enough? Then at least we'll know we didn't quit. Lena took his face in her hands. Ethan, you spent 5 years grieving. You built walls so high you forgot what it felt like to be touched by sunlight. But you're ready to live again. I can see it. You're ready to let people in, to risk being hurt, to choose happiness over safety. Don't let Richard take that from you. Don't let him win by making you choose between your company and your heart. Fight for both. Ethan kissed her then, desperate and grateful and terrified. When they broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. Okay, he whispered. We fight. But Lena, if it gets too hard, if the cost becomes too much, we'll deal with it together. That's what this is, right? Not you protecting me, not me proving myself, just us, figuring it out as we go. They stood there at the quiet house, holding on to each other while Amelia slept upstairs and Manhattan pulsed below, and the future waited with all its uncertainty. I love you too, Lena said quietly. I didn't want to. It's inconvenient and terrifying and probably the worst professional decision I've ever made. But I do. I love you. Ethan's eyes closed. Say it again. I love you. Again. I love you, Ethan Calloway. Bossy, complicated, brilliant you. They spent that night talking through strategy. How to approach the investigation, what documentation they'd need, how to present a united front without giving Richard ammunition. By the time Lena left at midnight, they had a plan. It was risky and exhausting and dependent on perfect execution, but it was theirs. The next 3 months were brutal. The investigation launched with all the subtlety of a sledgehammer. Lawyers interviewed everyone in Lena's department, everyone who'd worked with her, everyone who'd witnessed her hiring. They pulled emails, reviewed expense reports, analyzed every decision Ethan had made regarding linguistic services. Meanwhile, Lena and Ethan maintained professional distance at work. No closed-door meetings alone, no personal emails, no lunches together. They existed in the same building like strangers, and it was agony. Richard watched them with predatory patience, waiting for them to slip. They didn't. Lena threw herself into work, expanding the department, taking on increasingly complex projects. She handled a crisis in the Seoul office that saved a $30 million partnership. She negotiated a licensing deal in Arabic that opened Middle Eastern markets. She built something undeniable. Sarah ran interference, managing the team while Lena dealt with investigation interviews that felt like interrogations. Ms. Brooks, did Mr. Calloway ever indicate that your relationship would affect your employment? No. Our relationship began after I was hired and established myself professionally. Did you receive any preferential treatment unavailable to other employees? I received the resources necessary to do my job well, same as any department head. Were you aware of Mr. Calloway's feelings before accepting the position? I was aware he valued my skills. Personal feelings developed later and were disclosed according to protocol immediately. Over and over, the same questions phrased differently, looking for inconsistencies that didn't exist. Evenings, Lena went to Ethan's house through the back entrance, away from cameras or prying eyes. They'd have dinner with Amelia, who'd started calling Lena by her first name without the miss. They'd help with homework, practice languages, read Italian books until Amelia fell asleep. Then they'd strategize, or sometimes just sit in exhausted silence, drawing strength from proximity. Richard's pushing the board to make a decision, Ethan said one night in February. He wants the investigation concluded within the month. Can they do that? They can do whatever they want. It's their company, too. He rubbed his temples. Victoria called me yesterday. Off the record, she said the investigation hasn't found anything substantive. But Richard's arguing that the appearance of impropriety is enough. That my judgment is compromised regardless of whether rules were broken. So we're guilty of falling in love. That's his case. Essentially, Lena thought about the last 3 months, the scrutiny, the gossip, the way some employees had started treating her differently, some with resentment, others with fascination, all of them watching to see if she'd fail. She hadn't. When's the final board meeting? She asked. Next Thursday. They'll vote on whether to take action. Could be anything from censure to termination. Richard's lobbying for my removal. Then we need to give them a reason to keep you that has nothing to do with me. Over the next week, Lena worked with Sarah to compile a presentation that would make their case undeniable. Not about love or personal relationships or defending their choices. About results. Thursday arrived cold and bright. Lena wore her best suit, navy, expensive armor. Sarah met her outside the boardroom with a tablet and a tight smile. Ready to save your boyfriend's job? Ready to show them what we built. The boardroom was packed. All board members, senior executives, legal counsel. Richard sat with his arms crossed, looking confident. Ethan sat at the head of the table, looking exhausted but determined. Victoria called the meeting to order. We're here to conclude the investigation into potential conflicts of interest regarding Mr. Calloway's relationship with Miss Brooks. Legal? What were your findings? The lead attorney, a stern woman named Patricia, pulled up her report. After 3 months of investigation, including interviews with 73 employees and review of over 10,000 documents, we found no evidence of improper conduct. Ms. Brooks was hired based on demonstrated skills. Her compensation is consistent with industry standards for her role. No company resources were misused. The relationship was disclosed according to protocol. So you found nothing, Richard interrupted. We found no evidence of wrongdoing. But do you deny that their relationship creates the appearance of favoritism? That it undermines employee confidence in the merit-based system? Patricia hesitated. Appearance is subjective. Facts are objective. The facts show no impropriety. The facts show poor judgment, Richard countered. Ethan hired someone he was attracted to and then acted on that attraction. Regardless of legality, it demonstrates the kind of impulse-driven decision-making that puts this company at risk. May I respond? Lena stood without waiting for permission. Victoria nodded. Ms. Brooks, please. Lena pulled up her own presentation. You want to talk about poor judgment? Let's talk about judgment. This is the Linguistic Services Department revenue for the 3 months since the investigation began. Despite the scrutiny, despite the distraction, despite operating under a microscope, we generated $42 million in new business and prevented an estimated $30 million in losses from communication failures. The numbers filled the screen. Undeniable. This is employee satisfaction data from my department. 97% approval rating. This is retention. 0 turnover, despite the chaos. This is a comparison to industry standards. We're outperforming competitors by an average of 33%. She clicked through more slides, each one building the case. Mr. Morrison wants you to believe that Mr. Calloway's judgment is compromised because he fell in love with an employee. But here's what his judgment actually created. The most effective linguistic services division in the industry. A department that's become a competitive advantage. A team that's directly responsible for this quarter's 15% revenue growth. Lena looked directly at Richard. You want to question judgment? Question your own. You've spent 3 months and tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees trying to prove something that isn't true because you can't accept that someone you dismissed as a waitress is better at this than you are. That's not protecting the company. That's ego. The boardroom was silent. Ms. Brooks makes a compelling case, Victoria said finally. But the question remains, can we trust Mr. Calloway's objectivity going forward? Can you trust anyone's objectivity? Ethan spoke for the first time. Every CEO has relationships, spouses, children, friends, that theoretically compromise objectivity. We don't operate in a vacuum. We're human beings with emotions and connections. The question isn't whether I love Lena. The question is whether I can still lead this company effectively. And the answer, based on every metric that matters, is yes. He stood, pulled up his own presentation. This is company performance since I hired Lena. Revenue up 18%. Stock price up 23%. Employee satisfaction at a 5-year high. New partnerships in 7 countries. We're outperforming projections across every division. That could be coincidence, Richard argued. Could be. Or it could be that hiring talented people and trusting them to excel actually works. That taking risks on unconventional candidates creates innovation. That maybe, just maybe, the traditional way of doing things isn't always the best way. Ethan's voice was steady, confident. You want to fire me? Fine. But understand what you're firing me for. Not for breaking rules. I didn't. Not for poor performance. We're thriving. You'd be firing me for being human, for falling in love and handling it appropriately. And if that's your standard, I guarantee you'll run out of CEOs eventually. Victoria looked around the table. We need to vote. All in favor of taking disciplinary action against Mr. Calloway? 2 hands went up, Richard and his perpetual ally. All in favor of closing this investigation with no action? 8 hands. It was over. Richard stood abruptly, his face red. This is a mistake. You're setting a precedent that will destroy this company's integrity. No, Richard, Victoria said quietly. We're setting a precedent that we value results over appearances, that we trust our leadership to be both professional and human. If you can't accept that, perhaps it's your judgment we should question. Richard left without another word. The boardroom slowly emptied until only Lena, Ethan, and Victoria remained. That was quite a performance, Victoria said. Both of you. It wasn't a performance, Lena said. It was the truth. Perhaps, but truth and wisdom still aren't the same thing. You won today. But Lena, you've made enemies. People who will wait for you to fail so they can say they were right about you. That's the cost of being exceptional in spaces that aren't used to people like you. I know. I've been paying that cost my whole life. Victoria studied her for a long moment. I believe you have, which is why I voted in your favor. Excellence should be celebrated, not punished. Just don't make me regret it. After she left, Lena and Ethan stood in the empty boardroom, the weight of the last 3 months finally lifting. We did it, Lena said. You did it. That presentation, those numbers, you proved yourself in a way I never could. We proved ourselves, together. Ethan pulled her close, kissed her properly for the first time in months. When they broke apart, he was smiling, genuinely, freely. Dinner tonight? At my place? I'll cook. You cooking is a dangerous proposition. Fine, I'll order in. But Amelia wants to show you her Italian homework. She's been practicing. Then I'll be there. As they left the boardroom, Lena's phone buzzed. Text from Sarah. You magnificent bitch. Drinks tonight? Then Maya. I saw the stock price jump. Does this mean you won? Tell me everything. Then, unexpectedly, from a number Lena didn't recognize. Miss Brooks, this is Dr. Saraswati from Columbia. I heard about your department's success. Would love to discuss sending some of my graduate students your way for internships. You're doing exactly what we hoped you would. Lena stopped walking, throat tight. Ethan. What? She showed him the message. My old professor. She's proud of me. Of course she is. You're incredible. No, you don't understand. When I left Columbia to take care of my father, when I lost the UN position, when I ended up serving wine to pay rent, I thought I'd failed. I thought I'd wasted my degree, disappointed everyone who believed in me. But I didn't fail. I just took a different path to get here. Ethan kissed her forehead. The path doesn't matter. The destination does. And you're exactly where you're supposed to be. That evening at Ethan's house felt different. Lighter. Amelia ran to the door when Lena arrived, chattering about school and homework and the Italian song she'd learned from YouTube. They had dinner together, actual cooking this time, with Lena teaching Ethan to make a simple pasta while Amelia helped by stealing cheese and narrating in a mix of English and Italian. After dinner, Amelia showed Lena her homework, a beautifully illustrated story about a girl who could talk to stars. The Italian was imperfect but charming, showing real effort. This is wonderful, Lena said. Your grammar's getting so much better. Miss Chen says I'm the best in class, but there's only 3 of us learning Italian, so I'm also the worst. Amelia grinned. Can I ask you something? Always. Are you going to marry Daddy? Lena choked on her water. Ethan's eyes went wide. Amelia, he said, that's not... We haven't... But you love each other. Mrs. Chen says when people love each other, they get married. And then Miss Lena would live here, And we could have Italian for dinner every night, and she could teach me more languages, and I wouldn't have to go to grandma's when you work late. Out of the mouths of children came brutal honesty. Sweetheart, Ethan said carefully, Miss Lena and I do love each other. But marriage is complicated. We're still figuring things out. What's complicated? You love her. She loves you. I love her. She loves me, right, Miss Lena? Very much, Lena confirmed. So what's complicated? Lena and Ethan exchanged glances. How do you explain to a 6-year-old that the world makes loving each other harder than it should be? That logistics and fears and past wounds create obstacles that have nothing to do with feelings? Nothing's complicated, Lena said finally. You're right. When people love each other, they should be together. Your dad and I are just taking our time to do it right. So you will get married? Eventually? Amelia, Ethan started. Eventually, Lena said, looking at Ethan. If your dad asks me. The air went electric. Amelia squealed, Daddy, ask her. Ask her now. I don't have a ring, sweetheart, and this isn't. You don't need a ring, just ask. Ethan looked at Lena, something vulnerable and terrified and hopeful in his expression. She's right. I don't need a ring. But I need to say this properly. He took Lena's hands, ignoring Amelia bouncing excitedly beside them. Lena Brooks. 3 months ago, you walked into my restaurant and refused to be invisible. You challenged me, impressed me, and somehow saw through all my walls to the person I'd forgotten how to be. You're brilliant and brave, and you make my daughter laugh in a way she hasn't since her mother died. You make me want to be better instead of just successful. You make me believe in second chances. His voice shook. I know this is insane. We've known each other for months, not years. We just survived an investigation that could have destroyed both our careers. We're standing in my kitchen with my 6-year-old daughter coaching me through a proposal. Nothing about this is traditional or sensible or planned. But, Lena prompted, tears streaming down her face. But I've learned that the best things in life aren't planned. They're accidents and chances and moments of courage when you stop protecting yourself long enough to reach for something real. So yes, eventually. Someday when we've figured out more of the logistics, and I've bought a proper ring and done this in a way that's worthy of you. Lena Brooks, will you marry me? Yes, Lena said. Eventually. Someday. Absolutely yes. Amelia screamed, launching herself at both of them. They collapsed into a pile on the kitchen floor, laughing and crying and holding on to each other. This was her life now. This beautiful, chaotic, imperfect life she'd built from nothing. The next morning, Lena woke up in Ethan's guest room. They'd agreed not to rush things physically with Amelia in the house. To the smell of burning toast and a little girl singing off-key in Italian. She found them in his kitchen, Ethan scraping charred bread while Amelia danced around the table. We made breakfast, Amelia announced. Well, Daddy tried, but the toast is really crispy. I can see that. Ethan kissed her good morning, unapologetic about the disaster behind him. Coffee? Please. They ate burnt toast and overcooked eggs together, and it was perfect. Later, at work, the news spread quickly. Sarah squealed and demanded details. David smiled knowingly. Even Victoria sent a congratulatory email that managed to be both warm and subtly threatening about maintaining professional standards. Richard predictably didn't respond at all. But that afternoon, Lena got a call from an unknown number. Ms. Brooks, this is Klaus Schneider. Lena sat up straighter. Mr. Schneider, how can I help you? I hear congratulations are in order. Ethan is lucky man. His accent was thick, but his tone was genuine. I call because I have proposition. Schneider Industries is expanding into South America. We need linguistic consultant who understands both business and culture. You interested? That's very generous, but I'm committed to Callaway Technologies. I know, I'm not asking you to leave. I'm asking if your department can handle contract work. Schneider pays well, and working with us would give your team international exposure, yes? Lena's mind raced. I'd need to discuss it with Mr. Callaway. I already did. He says decision is yours. You built department. You run it how you see fit. That is what good CEO does. It's trust talented people. After the call, Lena sat in her office overlooking Manhattan, thinking about how far she'd come. 6 months ago, she'd been invisible. Now, international corporations were seeking her expertise. Her phone buzzed, text from Ethan. Klaus just called me excited about working with you. Whatever you said, he's impressed. Well done. Lena smiled, typed back, I didn't say anything special. I'm just good at what I do. I know. That's why I fell for you. The months that followed settled into a rhythm. Lena's department grew to 15 people. They handled projects across 6 continents. The Schneider contract led to 3 more international partnerships. Lena and Ethan navigated their relationship carefully, professional at work, affectionate at home, always conscious of setting boundaries that protected both their personal life and their professional reputations. Amelia thrived. Her Italian improved dramatically. She started learning French. She told anyone who'd listen that her dad was getting married to the coolest person ever. In April, Ethan finally proposed properly, on the roof of Callaway Technologies overlooking the city where they'd met, with a ring that was beautiful and tasteful, and probably cost more than Lena's first car. The answer was still yes. They planned a small wedding for the fall, just family and close friends. Nothing extravagant, nothing that would fuel gossip or give Richard ammunition. But 2 weeks before the wedding, everything almost fell apart. Lena was working late when her phone rang. Ethan's sister panicked. Lena, Amelia's sick, really sick. Ethan's in Tokyo for meetings and I can't reach him. She's asking for you. Can you come to the hospital? Lena ran. She found Amelia in the emergency room, feverish and scared, hooked up to monitors that beeped too loudly. Ethan's sister Rebecca sat beside the bed, looking terrified. They think it's appendicitis, Rebecca said. They're running tests. Ethan's on a plane, but he won't land for 8 more hours. Lena took Amelia's small hand. Hey, sweetheart. I'm here. Lena. Amelia's voice was small. It hurts. I know, baby. But the doctors are going to fix it. You're going to be fine. Promise? Lena thought about all the promises she couldn't make, all the guarantees life refused to give. But looking at this little girl who'd already lost so much, she nodded. I promise. You're going to be fine, and I'm not leaving until you are. The surgery happened at midnight. Lena paced the waiting room while Rebecca made calls, while nurses came and went, while the city outside continued its indifferent rotation. Ethan called from somewhere over the Pacific, his voice wrecked. How is she? In surgery? They said it's routine, she'll be okay. I should be there. I should have been there. You're coming as fast as you can. That's all anyone can do. Lena, if something happens, nothing's going to happen. She's strong, like her dad. When the surgeon emerged at 2 a.m., Lena nearly collapsed with relief. The surgery went perfectly. She'll be in recovery soon. You can see her in about an hour. Lena called Ethan with the update, then sat in the waiting room and finally let herself cry. Not from fear, that had passed, but from the realization of what she'd become to this family. Not just Ethan's fiancée, Amelia's second mother, someone who dropped everything and ran to hospitals and made promises she couldn't guarantee and loved so hard it terrified her. When they finally let her into recovery, Amelia was groggy but awake. Lena? I'm here, sweetheart. Did you stay? The whole time? The whole time. And I'll stay until your dad gets here, and probably after that too because your dad's going to be a mess and someone needs to keep him calm. Amelia smiled weakly. You love us. So much. More than I knew I could love anything. Ethan arrived at dawn, bursting into the hospital room looking like he'd aged 10 years on the flight. He checked Amelia compulsively, held her carefully, then turned to Lena with tears streaming down his face. Thank you. For being here. For staying. For loving her like she's yours. She is mine, Lena said simply. You both are. That's what family means. The wedding happened as planned, on a perfect October afternoon in a small garden Ethan had rented out. Amelia was the flower girl, taking her role with utmost seriousness, despite still recovering from surgery. Lena wore a simple dress. Ethan wore a suit. They stood in front of 50 people who mattered and promised to choose each other every day, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. When they kissed, Amelia cheered louder than anyone. At the reception, Sarah gave a toast that made everyone cry. To Lena, who taught all of us that being invisible is a choice, not a destiny. And to Ethan, who was smart enough to see her when everyone else looked away. May you spend the rest of your lives seeing each other exactly as you are, brilliant, flawed, and worth fighting for. Later, dancing with his daughter while Lena watched, Ethan caught her eye across the room and smiled. Not the careful CEO smile. Not the protective father smile. Just happiness. Uncomplicated and real. Lena smiled back, thinking about the journey that had brought her here. From serving wine to people who didn't see her, to building a department that changed industries. From hiding her talents to using them boldly. From survival to thriving. The path had been brutal, but the destination was worth every step. Months turned into years. Lena's department became the industry standard. Other companies tried to replicate what she'd built and failed because they hired the wrong people or understood the wrong lessons. It wasn't about languages. It was about creating space for talent that didn't fit traditional molds. Amelia grew up bilingual, then trilingual, then stopped counting. She was 12 when she told Lena she wanted to be a translator like her mom, both her moms. Ethan eventually stepped down as CEO, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. He started a foundation focused on education and language access, using his wealth to create opportunities for people like Lena had been. And Richard? He left Callaway Technologies 18 months after the wedding, offered a position elsewhere that he claimed was a promotion. Everyone knew it was a lateral move. Everyone also knew he'd lost. On their 5th anniversary, Ethan and Lena returned to Aurelius. The restaurant had changed ownership, been renovated, looked different, but felt the same. They sat at table 12, the same table where everything had started. "Do you ever regret it?" Ethan asked, holding her hand across the table. "The fight we went through, the scrutiny, everything it cost?" Lena thought about the question seriously, about the nights she'd cried from exhaustion, about the times she'd doubted herself, doubted them, doubted whether love was worth the battlefield it created. "No," she said finally, "because it taught me something I needed to learn, that being seen isn't comfortable, that excellence doesn't shield you from criticism, that choosing love is an act of courage, not weakness, and that the best things in life, you, Amelia, the work we've built, they're worth fighting for, every time." Ethan raised his glass. "To fighting, and to winning." "To both of us," Lena corrected, "together." They touched glasses, the sound clear and bright, a promise renewed. Outside, Manhattan glittered in the darkness, full of people fighting their own battles, building their own lives, choosing courage over safety. And somewhere in that vast city, another invisible person was about to become visible, about to take a chance, about to discover that their worth wasn't determined by who saw them, but by their refusal to remain unseen. The story never really ended. It just became new beginnings, over and over, for everyone brave enough to reach.